Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, we are starting tonight's show not with a video, but directly with our sponsor, which is Keet.io. People, let me just show my beautiful face so we can get into this. The question is this, everybody. Why should your messages need to, what the heck? Why should your messaging app need to know everything about you? Most of us already have that technology and know that companies are collecting enormous amounts of data and information, what we click, where we go, what we buy, and who we interact with. The best is getting those, ads for conversations that you've had, even though you've never actually searched for the items. Our information is extremely valuable. That's why companies collect it, steal it, and then resell it. Keet has a radically different approach. Keet is a free messaging, file sharing, and video capturing app built peer-to-peer. There's no centralized company database holding your conversations, no metadata tracking, and no phone number or email required. Your messages are end-to-end encrypted and move between the people in the conversation. Your private life shouldn't be another crop in somebody else's data harvesting farm. Visit Keet, that is Keet, Kilo Echo Echo Tango.io/Viva. That is Keet.io/Viva. Download it for free. Invite one person you trust and start the conversation. The website is here. Scan that QR code. Let me leave that up here for a few seconds while everyone trickles in. I'd like to thank our sponsor for tonight's show, Keet.io. Scan the QR code. Download Keet if you're into messaging. And if anything has taught us anything in real life, this end-to-end encrypted messaging, it's useful. I don't know if Keet.io notifies you if the person on the other end takes a screenshot of your text, because end-to-end encrypted is one thing. But when people take screenshots, look, everybody, messaging is a lot like relationships. Let me just take this out for 1 second. I'm not giving you life advice or marriage advice or relationship advice, but messaging is a lot like a relationship. You got to know who you're messaging on the other end. And if you don't or can't trust them, it's still better to have a good messaging app, but, govern yourselves accordingly. People, how goes the battle? First of all, sorry about not being live at 3 o'clock. I did a podcast, which I will put on blast, pre-recorded once it goes, and we'll talk about that one then. And I thought it might be done by 3 o'clock, and then ultimately, the two guests that I have for tonight were not easily available during the day, and I said, let's just do this at 6 o'clock. And let me see if I'm still glowing. If it looks like I'm still glowing, it's because I'm still sweating from my exercise, my jog. In the heat of Florida, you go at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or 4:30, and it's like jogging in not even a dry sauna, like jogging in a steam sauna. People, I am Viva Fry, David Freiheit, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida Rumbler. My daily live stream hour is typically on Rumble at 3 o'clock. This one we're doing a cross-platform because I've got two guests, and some of their audience might not be on as much on Rumble, although they should be, and I'm going to use the opportunity to do what's called funneling bitches at CommieTube. Everyone should go watch on Rumble and should join at vivabarneslaw.locals.com if you want the best above-average law community out there. We're live across all platforms. Now, Bobby Sauce, or as I like to say, Bobby Sauce, which is short for Bobby Sausalito, and I remember that, has been on the channel before. I like to say he's one of the few men on the, I won't say the other side because I don't play these stupid team sports, but he's on definitely team Candace adjacent, and I don't say team Candace. For a second, I'll qualify that. He's a man who's welcome and welcomes public discussion, and I like that. The only problem is when I say, I've invited Ian on the channel, Ian Carroll, Candace Owens, Rob O'Neill, and others, and I say they've never accepted, and he says, well, I've accepted. I was like, yeah, you've accepted, but you're not the one making outlandish claims that Candace and Ian are making. So it's nice to have a reasonable discussion with a reasonable person. What makes him reasonable is that he doesn't make the unreasonable, outlandish, unsubstantiated theorizing or the baseless accusations, and he is mildly reasonable and I think of good faith. The other person is Rob Noerr, who you may or may not know as the fact checker who was behind the Andrew Wilson debate, fact checking in real time. And I met Rob in Texas when I was there with Brandon Strzok for the hashtag walkaway Team MAGA versus Team America First debate, which I think we kicked ass. I was obviously on the Team America First, and I think we mopped the ground with Rob. I'm going to bring him in. Yeah,
Please. Unfortunately, we'll have to wait to see for, I think, a month, they said, until that video comes out. But it was fun, though, either way.
It was great. I just brought you on because I was actually speaking badly of you, and I had to give you the opportunity to we crushed you. Okay, hold on. Now I'm going to bring in Bobby Sauce, and I'm going to change the layout like this. Bobby Sausalito, sir, how goes the battle?
Goes well. Thanks for having me back.
It's going to be a free form. It's probably going to be heated to some extent. It's going to be fun. We can make, crude, crass jokes and whatnot. I guess I'll let you guys introduce yourselves before we get into it. Bobby Sauce, starting from the top left on my side. Tell everybody who you are.
Political comedian, I guess you could say, video maker of sorts, political commentator, I suppose. I make a lot of Instagram, YouTube, Facebook videos about political commentary, just making fun of the politicians and how stupid everything is. And I happen to weigh in on this particular Charlie Kirk case, which is kind of the hot topic of the moment. And I'm just a joke maker, internet entrepreneur turned joke maker.
That is Bobby Sauce. Rob, it is Noerr, right?
Yeah. Like the conjunction. Yes. Rob Noerr, a populist conservative, ran for Congress here in Pennsylvania in 2019, debated in college. I did policy NDTC debate and then was a coach for some years afterwards. I am on the right, as you see here, both politically and factually, unlike my left opponent here. And I can tell you're a comedian if you believe the Candace Owens theory. So it's already starting off with good jokes based on where you're going. But I was the fact checker that was putting up, you heard PBD. I can't do a good impression, but he's like, Rob, throw that clip up. Like, that was me. I was Rob. I was the person throwing the clips up. So I was at the debate, and it was an experience. So.
I want to bring this one up right away, by the way, that reads, no one can honestly say Candace lost that debate. She made an absolute fool of Andrew. Andrew doesn't even know the charges and showed he is not on the side of truth, but manipulation. I don't even know where to start. I could spend an entire evening not fighting with the chat, but rather having an argument with the chat. Like I said, I don't care that Andrew didn't know the charges, in detail, or even if he didn't know them. We weren't trying the case at that point in time. And I think it was a bit of a misguided attempt of the debate to have that discussion at that time, because that's what a trial is for, not adjudicating on overwhelming evidence at the stage of a preliminary hearing. I guess you're both, I'm going to go Bobby and Rob. Rob, question about the earpiece. Everybody was going after, what's his face? Andrew saying he had an earpiece. My understanding is that was an earpiece at the request of or for Candace's team, so that you guys, was it so that you could hear the video as it was playing, or so that it could feed information to both people at the same time?
It was so that they could hear the videos, I think, primarily. So full disclosure, I didn't even know he had it in. We could do 5 shows on the lead up to negotiation for this debate, but part of it, just to be quick, was fact checkers. Part of my weakness was I assumed what that meant was we would have access, for Andrew to have access to a computer, a tablet, or something, that we would be able to like have our sources up and he would be able to bring them up. So like, for example, hypothetically, if I'm Bobby's fact checker right now and you are arguing about the charges, I could send Bobby on a screen where he could see actually the charges were X, Y, and Z. When we had the tablet in front of him before the debate, she was like, no, what's that? We weren't using that. So we didn't have that. Instead, the fact checks went straight through Patrick Bet David, and I would just give them to Candace's team that would then put them on a computer. Then I would text Patrick and he would bring them up at his leisure. We had no access. There were 3 of us on the fact check team. That was me, Ryan Mullally, and Gerald Morgan. We had no access to communicate through that earpiece or any other way to Andrew during the debate. My assumption is with Candace, it was the same with them. At least in the little control room I was in, Candace's team was perfectly accommodating, perfectly friendly. And I would have heard if they were like, okay, Candace saying this. Now, hypothetically, could there be someone in some other room that was talking in her earpiece that wasn't going through Andrew's? Could be, but I have no reason to suspect that, nor would I make that accusation. So as far as I know, it was just so they could hear the videos that we were playing.
Robbie, no, hold on a second. Bobby. That's going to confuse everybody. You and I have been going back and forth on X. I guess I'll ask your assessment. And I don't know why it needs to be like a question of teams. I don't think anybody who is a Candace fan, maybe 10% of Candace fans, might concede or acknowledge that maybe she failed to substantiate some of her bolder claims. What was your assessment of the debate at large?
Well, I thought that she clearly had a greater grip on the case itself, and I believe it's pretty clear and came across quite clear that has a very deep and significant meaning to her. I don't really think that the case really matters one way or the other to Andrew, to be honest with you. And I think if I paid $300,000 to debate a person about the guilt of an American citizen, a human being that could be potentially sentenced to death, you'd think you'd have a pretty good idea of what the charges were being levied against that person. So I think that her care and her deep concern for the details of the case shone through quite clearly. And I think that that was really her only objective. I don't really know that Candace really has all that much to prove. That the people who've been paying attention to what she said, I don't think it's not clear to them. I think that the idea of this was, I'm going to pay $300,000 and I'm going to come in and I'm going to mop the floor with her. And I don't think that he achieved that.
Hey, Bobby, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
I can't claim to be very familiar with you, but I think that I've heard you be pretty critical of Israel. Is that true?
I have been critical of Israel, yes. But really, it's not isolated to just Israel. It's not like I just make content about Israel.
No, please. I'm not saying that. But you think that, like, that's a big issue right now, given the Iran war and stuff, correct?
I do believe that it is a
How many people live in Israel?
How many people live in Israel?
Yeah, how many people live in Israel?
I don't know, 9 million.
Wow, it sounds like you don't really care about that issue then. I can't believe, I know that 10.2 million people live there, so I must care about it more than you, right?
Well, I'm not here to debate Israel, dude.
But you'll acknowledge that this proves you don't care about Israel.
No, it doesn't prove.
So when you talk about the issue,
brother,
if I were you and
bro, you're gonna just come in. You're just gonna come in super hot like that. It's not even about Israel, bro. And you know,
no, but hold on. I'll illustrate the point that Rob. It's an interesting tactic. Rob is highlighting the point that one can have opinions on things and strong opinions and lack certain essential details. And if that's going to be the metric of determining that they shouldn't have an opinion or speak on an issue,
I didn't say he shouldn't speak on it, and I'm just saying, if you're going to a debate that you're paying $300,000 to prove that there is overwhelming evidence of a person's guilt, then you should probably have a better idea and a better grip of that case.
Well, if I can speak on this, just
but like we're not here debating Israel, and told.
I'm merely illustrating. I'm not trying to attack you. I was merely just trying to illustrate a point that you could have deep opinions about something and think it's very important, but not know trivial things that aren't that important to the issue you're concerned with.
But that's not why I don't think he cares about it. That's not why I don't think he deeply cares about it. That's just one.
That's a key piece of evidence you gave. And if I can, do you even know what the topic of this debate was?
Of the topic of what debate was?
The Candace Andrew debate.
Do I know what the topic was?
Correct. What was the topic?
What do you mean? What was the topic?
Well, the topic that was agreed upon that they were debating.
This is a fair question because I don't even know. Actually, I'll let you answer, Bobby, if you know, because I didn't know. I'm still not sure I do understand what the topic was. I know they broke it down into 3 sections.
Well, I believe that they debated 2 separate positions, which was they were debating the overwhelming guilt, or Andrew believed that there was overwhelming guilt of Tyler Robinson, and Candace was debating. I don't remember exactly what her position was, but I believe that it was the opposite of that.
The topic was,
hers was that it was a patsy. She was debating that it is likely that he is a patsy.
It's interesting you don't know that part of the topic. I would suspect that's because she did not make one piece of evidence to defend that part.
Well, I just said them both. So what do you mean I don't know it?
Please, but you were like, you had to think about it, and it's because she ran from that. Now, I'm not going to get into too much details about the negotiation of the topic. I'll just say this. Andrew believes, like I believe, that Tyler Robinson deserves his day in court. I think that in this stage, which most of the time we wouldn't have a preliminary hearing like this, we would just have a grand jury. But in Utah, they have these probable cause hearings. At this stage in the trial, we have more evidence against Tyler Robinson than almost any other capital murder charge. And so when he's saying overwhelming, that's what he's saying. Right now, it's like, wow, it looks really bad. But he also thinks that he hasn't had a chance to offer his defense, and the state has not tried to prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. They just proved overwhelmingly that there was probable cause. He doesn't really. Okay,
it's going to this is not a fault against Andrew or even Patrick for how they fleshed out or phrased the debate questions. Having a debate about the overwhelming nature of the evidence at a preliminary hearing is a misguided debate, and it's a bad framing, because if what the argument is overwhelming evidence of probable cause, that's not even, it's not even the threshold for the probable cause. And so having that debate sounds like a substantive debate before the adversarial process has occurred. And I think it shouldn't have been had in the first place. I'm not sure if it was a precondition to get Candace to sit down.
So what happened was Candace, I'll try to be brief with this. Andrew and me, and I believe Viva and a bunch of other people have heard these bold claims from people like Candace or Baron Coleman or Ian Carroll. And they're saying everything from Erica Kirk's complicit to Turning Point's complicit to Israel, etc. And so people like us have been like, would you like to come on so we could hear these claims and you could provide evidence and we could have a debate? They won't do it. And when you do get one of them, all they want to do is say, that's not our burden. The state has to prove their burden. That's all we care about. Andrew's position was, we'll see. So far, the state's done pretty good, but certainly they're still qualified for reasonable doubt because the state hasn't even tried to provide it. But Candace demanded that that be a precondition for the debate, and demanded, because Andrew said in one video there's overwhelming evidence, that he must defend that it was overwhelming. Andrew was uninterested in that portion of the debate because he thinks that a lot of people have talked about the case. He wanted to talk about Candace's claims. But if it's a precondition to getting in, fine, he'll defend that. She originally said, I'll define my theory that he's a patsy is viable. So we then had to provide evidence that she said that the fact he's a patsy is overwhelming, that he's a patsy by the state. So that became the topic. He was supposed to provide evidence that's overwhelming that Tyler Robinson's guilty for half of the debate. And the second half of the debate was her providing evidence overwhelming that he was a patsy set up and was actually innocent. I will ask you this straight up, Bobby. Can you name me one argument she made, one piece of evidence that suggested that Tyler Robinson was a patsy, let alone overwhelming evidence?
You mean in the specific debate, or that
Correct.
she's ever presented?
In the debate.
And was the question overwhelming evidence that he's a patsy? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that was what the contract was negotiated.
I didn't see any. I didn't see her. I didn't see any declaration that her claim is that there was overwhelming evidence of.
That was the topic. So,
but not even that. Not even that. During the debate,
know that that's true, but
no. But so reduce it, because during the debate, it was any evidence whatsoever to substantiate any of her claims, and then all of the claims were walked back. But I want to, before we get too far, because Bobby, you said like, oh, Andrew didn't know the charges. First of all, and again, it's splitting hairs. All aggravated murder is murder. Not all murder is aggravated murder. Period. The fact that he didn't know there were witness tampering or obstruction of investigations, but this is Barnes, and it's not because I'm biased. It's because I didn't want to. I'm not an American attorney. I'm not making these statements, even though I was drafting an email post to this effect yesterday. If we're going to rail against Andrew for saying he doesn't know basic things about the case,
I didn't rail against him. You asked
me.
No,
sorry. But you're saying he should at least have a basic knowledge. Candace, understands things more. If this is the threshold,
do you disagree with that? I mean, are we?
Yes.
You disagree that if I tell somebody that I'm going to pay $300,000 to debate them on the guilt of a person, that I shouldn't have an idea of what those things are?
Well, no, but I disagree that he didn't.
You can't name one of the charges.
No, he did.
I disagree that he didn't have an idea. Murder. Okay. I mean, that's the bottom line. Murder and its death penalty potential. But
okay.
At the end of the day,
it's not my hill to die on. I'm just saying. You asked me what was my overview. That was the first thing I said. I'm not here to. I don't have a bullet point list of things to defend.
But would it have been better if he listed off all 7 like that? Yeah, it would have. But the bottom line is this:
or one.
He got one. He got one. The murder. I mean, that's all that anybody cares about. Nobody cares about the witness tampering. Like, if we're being realistic about it. But
it's a big difference.
It says
just penalty versus not.
Well, no, because I think even with the murder, the operating premise is that it's death penalty eligible. But but if this is the threshold now, live by the sword, die by the sword. Barnes says just a few mistakes Candace made. She didn't know that most of the evidence admitting at the hearing would be admitted at trial. She didn't know Robinson is also charged with murder, not just aggravated murder, lesser included. She didn't know the difference between DNA and fingerprints. She didn't know that degraded DNA has nothing to do with timing of the DNA's presence on the gun. She didn't know that dirt being inside the rifle does not prove anything about the rifle being used. She didn't know that Tyler confessed to being the person in the surveillance footage. That's going to be a disputed fact, but whatever. She didn't know that Twiggs identified Tyler as the person in the surveillance footage. That was a big one that she actually questioned during the debate, and I couldn't believe it, because I think that means that the people in the silo are listening to the same people in the silo. When Twiggs... No, she did not know that he said the last two. What did he say? Very much look like him, or almost.
Yeah. She said it. He said it looks like him based on his clothes.
She said it.
That's what he said.
No, he said
she had doubt.
What?
Didn't she say that Twiggs said he had doubt about his appearance?
Yeah,
he did. He was
in the last 2 clips, he said, "Yeah, that's him."
He said I can't be 100% certain, but it looks like him because of his clothes.
The point is with these charges things, right? Again, I just real quick. If I can
wait, so you're just gonna move on from that?
Well, it's not my argument. If you're talking,
okay, but I'm just saying you just had a point. You made your point.
I told you. I'm just saying.
I answered the question, and then you just moved on from it.
Did I make that point?
You asked me the question.
I think. Hold on. I think if it's going to be a question of mocking Andrew for not instantly.
I didn't
listed him
mock.
as
What are
charges.
you doing? You're just injecting all
Fine.
these terms.
Let me
I'm
rephrase. Let me
mocking
rephrase.
him.
For
Like, what do you mean, dude?
using it as an excuse to claim that he underperformed. I mean, we're trying to for
No,
brevity.
right, you
I
sound
didn't
like
say he
Candace here.
underperformed either.
Come on, you're splitting hairs here, talking about splitting hairs. You literally said something almost verbatim was, if I paid $300,000, I
Yes.
would know the charges,
Yes.
right? And then now you're like, it's not that important that he didn't know the exact charges. The point is,
I didn't say
Andrew,
that
as I already,
either.
two things. I already explained that Andrew didn't even really care as much about the state charges. He's more interested when the state tries to make their case, and he may, just like
Okay.
myself, we may say there's reasonable doubt. That's possible. It could happen. The defense has not had a chance to hear the state's full case and provide their defense yet. That's reasonable. What he wanted was over and over and over, we hear these people make these claims, and he wanted her to have to give the evidence for her claims, which she was unable to do. I would turn the question to you. If Candace has spent 11 months on this case, right, and she's deeply invested in it, as you and others have said, why couldn't she list all 7 charges? Why did she let me finish. She inaccurately listed one of the charges, felony discharge of a firearm. That was not the charge. That is wrong. So how do you defend the fact that she was wrong about that charge?
I mean, they pulled the charges up on the screen. Why should right when she said them.
She didn't read the part that said that the actual crime wasn't felony discharge of a firearm. It was felony discharge of a firearm that caused serious bodily injury. She was incorrect.
Okay.
So what do you say? Don't you think that's
What do you-
pathetic that Candace talked about this case for 11 months and doesn't even know the basic charges?
Well,
No, I don't think it's pathetic.
Then why did you say it about Andrew?
I didn't say it was pathetic.
Yes, you did. You said that you seemed to impugn
Brother,
him in
what
some
are
manner.
what are you talking
In the
about,
same
bro?
way, okay, how about this? In whatever the exact
Dude,
language would you
if you're
were
if you're just gonna insert words that you're claiming that I'm saying,
No, but so hold on,
Let
just
me-
back
then
up.
what the hell are we even talking
What?
about?
No, but-
I didn't
yeah.
say pathetic. That word hasn't come out of my mouth.
Okay, in the exact
Why are
same way
you
that
yelling?
in the exact
Why
same
are you
way that
yelling
you
at me?
in the exact same way that you impugned Andrew Wilson for not knowing the charges, will you admit that that same
Impugned?
impugning comes to Candace for also not knowing the charges?
I impugned him.
What did you do to
Well,
him?
you did say that was the basis of him losing the debate.
No, I did not say it was the basis of him losing the debate. What are you talking
What
about?
did you say? Can you tell us what you said? Can
I
you
said-
restate it?
Dude, is this what we're gonna do? We're gonna go
Not
back.
just- well, you keep quibbling about it, so just tell us what you really meant.
Because you definitely you held it against him. So in whatever
Yes,
capacity,
yes.
you held it.
I
Okay, so
used
do-
it. I
do we-
used it as a justification for explaining my position that I believe he doesn't care as much about the case.
Since she misstated the charges, do you use this as justification to say she doesn't care that much about the case?
No.
Why is it different standard for her than him?
Because a different word out of 7 charges that were literally listed in chronological order and were all correct except for a single word, which is what you're talking about, versus the other side not knowing a single charge, or you could say knowing a single charge but
Wait,
getting
wait.
it wrong. You're
How did he get it
Dude,
wrong? He missed one word, just
no,
like
you're-
you're saying
no,
she missed words, and it doesn't
brother.
matter that she missed
No,
words.
Bro.
but I think we don't need to belabor the point. I think there's
doing?
no, but I think there's clearly there's something of a double standard only because you're saying, well, she really cares about the case, so her mistake
okay.
is innocent. But
Okay.
let me
That's how
bring
you
this
want to
up.
frame it, then fine.
Let's just bring this up.
That makes it-
This is what she wrote. I mean, this is where I probably wouldn't have been suitable for this debate because I probably would have handled it like a cross-examination in law, where she wrote in December, I received information last night that put the final pieces together for me. I now can say with full confidence that I believe. How do you say with full confidence that I believe? These are like a qualifier of a qualifier. I can now say with full confidence, I believe Charlie Kirk was betrayed by the leadership of Turning Point USA and some of the very people who eulogized him on stage.
Yeah.
Yes, I will be naming names and providing evidence for my claims. And I am making a personal plea to every well-meaning person who donated to this godforsaken organization to request a refund. So, by the way, not to get litigious, this is if I'm her attorney, this is dangerously close to tortious interference. She's imploring third parties, getting in between contracts between 2 third parties on the basis of what some might claim to be defamatory, or at least defamatory per quad. What does this possibly mean? And this is why, like, Bobby, you're good. You come down, you have the discussion. You're not the person who drafted this.
Yeah.
What in the name of sweet holy hell does this mean? She tried to walk it back during the debate and say, all I was suggesting is that Erica Kirk was promoting a fake narrative that Tyler Robinson was the lone gunman. And that's all I meant when I say betrayed and that she was complicit. What the hell does this possibly mean?
Well, let's look through it line by line. I received information that put the final pieces together for me. We have to remember that Candace has a unique connection to Turning Point USA, as well as a unique connection to Charlie Kirk that basically no other person in the world actually has. So she received information because she has a lot of people that not only were in Turning Point USA, but are still in Turning Point
You don't
USA.
know that. You're assuming that.
Brother, if you're just going to cut me off when I'm saying something and I'm not even doing that to you, then this is a waste of my time. So you want to just let me finish what I'm saying, or are you just going to rip into it every single time?
You have to take notes,
Thank
Rob.
you. That's awesome. Okay, cool. Anyhow, so she says with full confidence that she believes that Charlie was betrayed by the leadership of Turning Point USA. There's a multitude of reasons why she could believe that, from the people that they decide to put on stage, to the changes in the behavior and the organization as a whole, to the people that they're allowing to speak on their behalf, to people that may or may not have had a good connection to Charlie that were able to speak on his show, to people that were able to speak at his funeral or at his memorial that did not really have much of a connection to him. So she has the confidence and she believes that people were betrayed. There could be any multitude of reasons for that. So I don't really understand what is so confusing about this.
I will be naming names. Charlie was betrayed. So you're saying, well, I potentially read this as in he was betrayed after he was murdered and not before.
Okay, yeah, perhaps. I mean, she doesn't explicitly state that. So yeah, probably before, probably after as well. I would imagine it was before as well.
You were lied to and leadership knew. I mean,
okay. So yeah, I believe that that's probably true.
Did she at any point in the debate substantiate this rather hyperbolic affirmation?
It's not what the debate is about.
So is the answer no, she didn't, but she didn't have to, or she didn't have to, but she did anyhow?
I don't believe that the debate was about, I don't believe that the debate subject matter was about this.
She did not substantiate this in the debate, but you didn't think she had to, is the answer? No, she didn't, but she didn't have to.
I mean, this is extremely vague. The word betrayed, did she allude to the fact that they were betrayed? I suppose. But that's not what the debate was about.
Rob, you're doing the fact checking. Yeah, well, pull up, because you can pull up probably more quickly than me some of the concrete examples where she said Israel was involved, or
she said that she had full confidence that the French Foreign Legion in Israel was involved. She said Erica Kirk was complicit. She said Erica Kirk talked to Terrell, and Terrell panicked when the charged microphone didn't kill him in the way that was expected, and so then panicked and called Erica because their plan ran afoul. She's called Erica Kirk a black widow. She said Erica Kirk should go straight to jail. All of these are claims she made. I pushed back on the claim that this wasn't the topic of the debate. Again, yes, it was. The topic of the debate was Andrew having to defend overwhelming, which was Candace demanded that word be put there, the overwhelming evidence against Tyler Robinson, to her defending the overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson was a patsy and was actually innocent. So the parts about her claiming, here are the real people that killed Charlie, that would be her evidence, part of her evidence as to why Tyler Robinson was a patsy. I ask again, given that, well, two questions on this. One, don't you find it disturbing that she's implied to millions of viewers that all of these people are either complicit in the cover-up of the murder or participated in the murder? Some of them nations like Israel or the Trump team covering it up, or the French Foreign Legion, or Mormon beekeepers, or a Masonic cult, or specific people at Turning Point, or Andrew Colvett in a dream. Charlie told her that Andrew Colvett betrayed him, or Erica Kirk. Don't you think the fact that she's impugned these specific people as that and then ran from any of evidence or any of those claims in the debate is troubling? And second, can you name me one piece of evidence she put forth defending the claim that Tyler Robinson was a patsy?
So I think that Candace's position is often mischaracterized, where it is laid down to believe that there is absolute 100% certainty about everything, as opposed to a thing that she believes based on the collection of information and evidence that she has collected, some that she's been able to display and some that she has not been able to display. So if she feels that those people are implicit or that those people are somehow connected to the case, that's her feeling. That's what she believes to be true. So in the event that, and here's the other thing, I'll finish it. So, and the other thing is this, is that in the event that Tyler Robinson is not guilty, let's just presume that that was the case. In the event that Tyler Robinson was not guilty, it would suggest, or would be highly probable or likely, that he was the opposite, that he was in fact a patsy. In the event that he was not guilty, then that would likely be true. And I think that that's what she's suggesting.
That's not
But,
true at all. Like,
Rob,
real quick, if I can, Viva, like,
Yeah.
we see many times where people are charged with heinous crimes and they're found not guilty. That doesn't mean, then the next logical explanation is the state intentionally set them up as a fall guy. Sometimes the state's just wrong. Sometimes someone's guilty, but they're able to make the case that it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. To jump to the conclusion that that means that they were set up by the feds seems to be quite the stretch.
Well, I don't think that she's jumping to that conclusion. I think that the collection of all of the other information and evidence and conversations that she's had, some that are public and some that are likely not, has led her to that conclusion.
But then what I'm saying is she didn't make any of those arguments in the debate. You just said, you seem to imply, well, the fact she's saying he's not guilty is making that argument. I'm like, no, that doesn't make that argument. So what was the argument she made in the debate that he was a patsy?
I mean, we all watched the debate. Am I supposed to go back and recite back specific?
No, just one argument. That's all.
Ask the question again. What was the specific evidence that she made that suggested that he was a patsy?
The positive evidence she gave that suggested he was a patsy set up by the feds.
Well, in the event that the information that she believes to not be accurate, then that would be the only likely conclusion to draw. So for example, in the event that Tyler Robinson was not actually on the rooftop, of which there is really no concrete evidence to prove that he necessarily was. The only thing that proves that Tyler Robinson was on the rooftop, which is shaky at best, is the screwdriver. The screwdriver was originally reported to be found across the street near the gun. There's no evidence that ties Tyler Robinson to this roof other than that. And that one piece of hard evidence is pretty suspicious in and of itself, in the fact that the police officer that supposedly discovered this on the rooftop, not only did he not say on his radio while he was communicating with the other police officers on board that he found a screwdriver, he didn't say that didn't appear anywhere on the airwaves, and then his body cam mysteriously cut out at the most opportune time when this piece of hard evidence would have been discovered. So in the event that those two things are extremely sketchy and extremely shady, then
that does not prove, if he was not on the roof, that does not prove that he's a patsy set up by the feds.
Okay. Well, it's not just that. These are all, first of all, it's not unheard of. Like it was not a police officer. It was Utah University or
security or whatever.
Yeah, Utah. The idea that like these things that occur pretty much daily because people are idiots, like, and I keep making the reference, Ashley Babbitt's killer, Michael Bird, left his gun in a bathroom. So like cops do stupid things. Not charging your camera is not the stupidest thing ever. This is all evidence that you'll challenge it and you'll use it to try to raise reasonable doubt that Tyler was the one on the roof. To say that there's no evidence when, at least the preliminary hearing showed that the man identified in the hat with the shirt and the jeans, even his boyfriend says looks like him. They follow that guy. They say, here's a video of what appears to be the same person on the roof. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's Lance Twiggs himself. But she provided zero evidence to substantiate her claim that it's 0% possibility that it's Lance Tyler Robinson and that he's a patsy. And I would add, without even describing or defining what the term patsy means. Bobby, you used the term. What do you mean by a patsy? Because I can think of at least 4 different definitions, all on a certain spectrum of what patsy can mean.
Well, a patsy would be just a synonym for a fall guy, a person that's framed in such a way that they are to take the blame.
Well, in fact, involved or not involved? No involvement or
she said that she believes that he was involved somehow. I think that that's highly likely as well.
Okay, so it's highly involved in aggravated murder. And then to say that
I didn't say highly involved. I said it's highly likely that he's involved as well.
Sorry, and I didn't mean to misphrase it. So highly likely that he's involved in a plot that ends in aggravated murder.
Yeah,
that's right. That's and then to suggest that Israel or the French Legion is behind it in the absence of any other concrete evidence.
Can I play my clip? It actually speaks to this.
Let me bring this one up.
Yeah, because you had said, she's just conjecturing. She hasn't said definitively she believes it. So here we go.
Pierre knew that Charlie was dead first. I think there's a reason he was a priority. How? Why? I think France and Israel are involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination.
I think.
And I'm going to put that out there with full confidence.
Oh, I think I have full confidence. Now, your argument is that's not her saying she actually has full confidence. That's her somehow implying, I'm just conjecturing this isn't what I really believe. What does full confidence mean?
That France and the French Legion were involved.
French Legion and Israel were involved.
If I wanted to steelman it for her, let me take this out. I would say, well, how do I get out of here? I don't know. Israel might be up behind some technology of this is not what I want to do. This.
There we go.
No, hold on this way. Israel might be behind some technology involved in it. So I guess, Israel has a patent on a cell phone video. I'm being glib. What does it possibly mean, Bobby? And you make a statement like that and then come up and say, I've got nothing to substantiate it. I feel
like this is the thing is like first and foremost, I'm not Candace Owens,
but that's why when you offer to come up here and have the discussion, and I'm pointing out that the people making the claims refuse to systematically, and then you say, "What about me?" You're not making the claim, so you can't say, pick me," and I'll answer the questions. But it's not me making the statements. Why doesn't Rob O'Neill come on an adversarial
I said, "Pick
podcast?
me." Dude, what I believed that we were coming on to discuss, which you don't have to agree that I didn't realize that it was this. That's fine. I'm happy to talk about it. I have no problem with that. But what I think is happening, not only with most people that are going against Candace, but also you as well, is that I think that a lot of people are mischaracterizing the position of people that don't believe that Tyler Robinson is guilty, of which Candace Owens falls underneath that umbrella. And I think that there's
literally said that she's high confidence that Israel and the French Legion were involved.
Total confidence.
So she's saying that. Okay, yeah, I'm not her. She's saying that. She also has information that I probably do not have.
Okay, two things on this.
One second, Rob. Sorry, not to.
That's fine.
When I said they never come on and I listed the names and then you said I'll come on, and then the implication is I'm not having the discussion with you because I only want to pretend that people are not discussing with me. This is exactly why I like that you come on, but you're not the one making outlandish statements that discredit the people who I believe are the true truth seekers. And so it's very easy. You come on and say, I think Candace is of good faith. I think she's personally invested, whatever. I think the opposite, but whatever. And then you say, well, but I don't make those statements, so don't hold me to that standard. I want the Ian Carrolls of the world who came out the next day and said Israel just shot Charlie Kirk in front of his family to defend that. And I got Ian online to say, yeah, I look, they in a book, they might, fit the culprit. Basically he's saying, yeah, I made a very hyperbolic statement. And it's not that I'm trying to protect Israel. If there were the slightest shred of evidence, I would be as much as anybody else saying full force of the law. But neither Candace nor Rob O'Neill nor I've got questions for Coleman if he'll do it publicly as well in terms of some of the evidence and statements that they've made and arguments that convince millions based on what was now an unverified receipt. They don't accept these invitations. They just go do their own happy silos where nobody asks them these questions. Hey, Rob, when you killed someone from up close, what kind of gun did you use? Do you think killing someone makes you an authority on how bullets behave or how bodies behave when they get shot? Does Jeffrey Dahmer become an authority on cooking because he ate other humans? Like that experience is meaningless. Then he relies on the Candace talking points, but he doesn't do any adversarial or even challenging interviews. And I appreciate that you come on, but you can't be held to their statements, and that's going to be ultimately, your saving grace.
Okay.
If I can jump in real quick, Andrew said in the debate, and I think it's the same way I feel, and I don't want to speak for Viva, but you tell me if you feel this way as well. I have no problem with people being like, I have doubts about the state's case. That's entirely reasonable considering at this part in the process, the state hasn't even attempted to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. So it's completely honest and fair to be like, I have questions. Maybe the state will answer them, maybe they won't, and maybe you'll still have questions after the trial. The problem is when people are attacking groups or specific individuals as being horrible people complicit in murder or covering up a murder, and then they're unwilling to defend those claims. One of the things you've said here is that somehow Candace should be given some extra leeway because perhaps she has sources that are connected. Why should we trust those sources? How do we know that those sources exist or that they're accurate? How does Candace know that these sources are accurate?
If I may actually, and Bobby, this is where you say like she might have sources like what Rob is saying. Mitch Snow being one of her sources, Ford Hachuka or Hachu, like she's had sources that have been wrong, that have been unreliable, to put it mildly. And then we're just told,
wrong. Well, here's the other
Mitch Snow for one.
Okay, has he been wrong? Is that proved that he was wrong?
Uh,
He's in. There's a defamation case right now, which he's defending himself pro se because Candace apparently isn't going in it with him, so she doesn't want to attach herself to him legally thus far.
Does that prove he's wrong?
Well, no, it doesn't. But there's no
Okay,
evidence.
well, then he's not wrong.
There may be evidence.
Where's your evidence to prove that?
No, but Bobby, but that's not how it works. He made a positive statement that there was a meeting involving Erica Kirk at Fort Huachuca the day before. How do you want to prove wrong something that never happened?
Well, how do you know it didn't happen?
Well, we'll see.
There's been no evidence.
Saying, but you don't. Bro, you don't.
But his source is highly problematic.
You don't. Okay, just because you believe
no evidence of it.
Okay, everything. This really lies to the crux of the problem, which is like you don't believe that anything that's presented counts as evidence.
I don't believe that a liar. Okay, hold on. I don't believe that a proven liar with a questionable history at best that says something that has not been substantiated is to be believed. What happened to you just asking questions? Where's the evidence of what he said?
Well, where's the evidence that he's wrong?
Well, Erica has claimed she was at a hospital. She claimed that she was at a hospital and released a picture, I believe, with her children that said, "Here was me on the day I was supposed to be no, it was her children.
It wasn't.
A woman said it wasn't her children. Their faces were blurred out, and then later said, "Oh, I think I was mistaken." But let's, for the sake of record, say that
did the pictures get taken?
Let's say this.
How does that prove anything?
Please, it's not my argument. So, for the sake of argument, let's say this is true. So then we have to accept that Candace's sources may be telling the truth. Which ones? What happens when the sources contradict each other? Now, which one do we accept?
What I will say about evidence, for example. So like I'll use let's just for the sake of the preface to what we're saying here, or the foundation of it, is like you guys don't believe that, for example, the receipt that was presented from the restaurant in Panguitch, you don't consider that to be evidence. Like Andrew didn't consider that to be evidence, right?
You know why? Because she admitted during the debate that it was never tied to Tyler Robinson. Right. It's evidence of nothing other than it's a receipt.
Okay, so
reprinted, by the way, reprinted.
Okay, so can Candace call the credit card company, for example, to get the information as to whether or not that was Tyler Robinson's credit card?
I'll entertain your argument. No, she can't.
Okay, great. So she can't. What she said was she was just like, I called the owner of the restaurant. Other people have gone there and interviewed people that were at the restaurant at that day, the wait staff, for example. They've presented a receipt. Another person, you had an eyewitness testimony that says he saw him, that he verified that it was him. You have eyewitness testimony. You have a hard piece of evidence. She's seen the unredacted receipt.
You just repeated the conclusion. You don't have a hard piece of
evidence.
Yeah,
okay, fine.
You have a receipt that's tied to nobody.
Fine. Okay, fine. You have a receipt. You have an eyewitness testimony. That's what she has. She can't call a credit card company and validate that is.
If I may,
hold on a second.
What you guys are saying that that's not evidence, but like,
first of all, not okay, fine.
But the evidence that's presented. But the evidence.
Here's my evidence. It's signed. It says that Tyler was at UVU.
Right. But the standard of what
it's signed.
Bobby, what you're saying, Bobby, is that she has said something with no evidentiary basis to say it,
right?
But then says, well, I can't prove it, therefore it's true. She made a statement that she can't substantiate.
But I'm just saying that the level of scrutiny that was applied to the evidence that was presented in the preliminary trial was less than that.
Well, first of all, it's not true. It's a preliminary hearing for probable cause.
Is it?
When she says, I saw the receipt, Tyler Robinson ate at the restaurant. And by the way, I said it at the time.
She believes that he did.
No. First of all, she didn't even say believe. Okay, she didn't. And what she did also say is she didn't say the receipt shows it. What she did was quite, cunning.
She said, I've seen the receipt.
I saw a receipt. Tyler Robinson ate at the restaurant. The implication that everybody's going to say is, well, the receipt proves it. Then I said, can you provide the unredacted receipt? To which she said, stay tuned. And then during that debate, she pretends that the stay tuned was in response to following the story from the journalist Diligent Denizen, and not, I'll provide the unredacted receipt. They redacted the receipt without having tied it to Tyler Robinson, the redaction serving as the basis that they had to protect the information that it linked to Tyler Robinson. If that is not a lie or egregiously dishonest to you, you are living in a world of double standards where you're blinded by some form of love or loyalty that you are willing to be lied to and say, thank you very much. Oh, you didn't say it. You just said, I believe, even though you didn't say I believe. She positively asserted she had a receipt redacted to protect information that tied Tyler Robinson to the steakhouse so that she, Baron Coleman can come out and say, impossible that he could have been there. She puts it in her timeline, and then she says, well, I never tied it to him. And if someone debunks it, how are they going to debunk it if she can't prove it? Then I'll update my timeline. Sorry,
if I may. So a couple things to say about this. There's two things I want to say. First, about the steakhouse. She does something that's a very interesting tactic, and it reminds me of FISA-gate, right? You remember in FISA-gate where the FBI goes after 2 warrants, and they go to the primary subsource, this Russian guy named Igor Dushenko, and they go to him and they say, hey, these claims in the Steele dossier that you're talking about, what do you have to say about them? And he sort of laughs and goes, these were just bar rumors. I really can't believe that you're using those. The FBI goes back to the FISA court and says, we talked to the primary subsource. We think he's telling the truth. And the court says, oh, okay, and rubber stamps the warrant. What they didn't say was what he was telling the truth about was that he said that it's all bullshit. Candace says over and over here, I called and talked to the owner. Can you bring up my screen share? Here's what the owner actually said. I'm sure she did call and talk to the owner. The owner says, based on the official information, or based on the information currently available to us, we have no evidence establishing whether Tyler Robinson was at our restaurant on September 10th, 2025.
Rob,
we have responded.
What date was this post?
This was in July, I believe. I don't know. This was someone reposting it.
Yeah,
so this was July 18th. It says, we have responded truthfully to those who have questioned us. That would include the people like Candace and them they're calling. Based on information we have, we've cooperated fully. We'll continue to cooperate with authorities. So she makes it seem like, it sounds like she called the owner and he said, we have no evidence this was Tyler Robinson. But she leaves that part out. She says, oh, here's the receipt. It's blurred out, but I called the owner. But notice she never says what the owner said. This is a form of sort of duplicity because it's just like everything else she says. She says something, and then as soon as you push back and get into the details, she leaves it ambiguous enough so that her audience draws conclusions, but she's never on record actually saying it. So I'll give you a chance to respond. Then I have another point if you don't mind.
Hold on, before we do that, I got to ring the bell. Brady L has just subscribed to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Welcome. Respond to that, Bobby, because I mean, I think I know what you're going to say, but I don't want to say it for you.
Okay, why? What do you think I'm going to say?
Well, you're going to say that she's just stating her opinion and putting out the dots, and it's up to us to connect them.
Well, first off, I don't know that screenshot is real or not real. Maybe
it is real. The Cowboys Steakhouse put that statement out. I think they put it out a little bit later in the timeline, so somebody can say, well, when they put that statement out, it was to respond to the backlash, and they were coerced or threatened or whatever. That's how they can get out of it there. But
okay, yeah, could be the legal team suggested that they don't declare that outright because it would blow the entire case apart. I don't know. How am I supposed to know? But don't you think that if this was such a salient piece of information that Andrew would have said this in the debate?
Well, no, she didn't say. He did say basically that you don't know about the receipt. I suppose he could have said in the steakhouse owner.
No,
wait, don't interrupt me. Did you just interrupt me?
No, I interrupted you. I'm allowed to.
Bobby interrupted there. For shame. I'll storm out of here all pissed off. Come on, Bobby, don't interrupt. How you like a little taste of that medicine? Anyways, no, he could have brought up.
Nobody found that impressive.
That's okay. You're a comedian. You're not being that funny except for your arguments anyways. Nonetheless, point I'm trying to make is that he actually did make the argument. And you and other Candace supporters seem to be infinitely charitable on any number of possible explanations of why her exact words don't matter and why her providing no evidence matters. But
let me interrupt you up. She admitted that they have never tied the receipt to Tyler Robinson. Do you concede that?
Do I concede that they have not definitively tied it to Tyler Robinson?
That she admitted that they haven't tied it to Tyler Robinson.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you not think then the statements that she made, I'm going to pull it up, suggesting that she's seen the receipt Tyler Robinson ate there, would not be mildly misleading to people who lack certain critical thinking skills when interpreting language?
No, perhaps, but that's what she feels is credible based on the information that she's gathered and collected.
No, it's not her. Do you think it's kind of misleading to suggest that I've seen the receipt, which I know that I haven't tied to Tyler, but I didn't mention that Tyler ate at the restaurant? Do you not think that that's a little bit misleading?
I don't know that she said that it's an absolute certainty. I guess you could say it's misleading, I suppose, but I don't interpret it that way.
Can I ask you real quick? One important part of this debate, I think, is there's a litany of evidence. If you want to give me 3 minutes, I could run through the state's case. But if you need to interrupt again, go ahead.
Just give me 1 second. Let's just so everybody understands what's occurring here. Number one, nobody ever told me that this was a debate. That's the first thing. Number two, you literally have clips and stuff. I just thought I was coming on here to talk to Viva and you were going to be a guest. So just so everybody understands that that's where we're at.
I said this was
You
going to
didn't
be.
say come on to debate this guy about Candace Owens' claims. You didn't say that.
No. The whole thing was we were going to debate. Dude, I would be doing what Rob's doing without him. The whole thing was to debate the debate.
Okay, you didn't say that, but nobody ever said that.
You responded to. I'll come on when I said none of Rob, Baron, Candace, Ian ever come on to talk about it. You said I'll come on.
Yeah, I'll come in and talk about it. Yeah, and I'm happy to keep talking about it. I'm not going to log off. I'm just saying, just so we understand this, I didn't come up here with clips and evidence to go back and forth in a specific debate, and I'm happy to do so just so the audience understands.
Okay. Well, much like when when Andrew tries to finally get to the point where he could ask questions and she has to have the meta conversation explaining to her audience why she doesn't have any answers. I'm glad you gave the meta conversation why you're going to look so bad here. Great. I don't really give a shit. I don't think anyone does. Now, the important part of the debate was the idea of one of the identifications was from Tyler Robinson's parents himself. They say they recognized him. They called him. He said, I'm thinking of ending my life. They talked to him. He implied he did it. And then they contacted a family friend. You acknowledge that her argument was that she has a source that says, actually, that wasn't the parent. That was the family friend that said all that. And we have no evidence the parent said that. Correct? That was the argument she made?
I believe so, but I think that also is true.
Okay. You bring up my source real quick, Viva?
Yeah, hold on.
No, the audience couldn't hear the video next time, so allow me to briefly explain it after I play
the audience did not hear the last video you played?
That's what my Rumble audience was saying.
Press play here. Let me see. I'm going to go to my locals and see, because I'll have to tell the people at Rumble Studio that there's a bug. Play it, and I'm going to see if
I have a source, and everything the source has told me that has happened when we were lied to publicly has proven to be correct. So I am very inclined to believe this source on a couple of other things. And when I speak
pause for a second, Rob,
to Lantis family,
I'm just going to look at the chat in locals. Do you guys hear that, or do you not hear the audio of Candace on that video? Let me just see here. C-Tune is typing. No, C-Tune just posted a cat meme. We are hearing. Okay,
they can hear it.
They can hear it. Do it again. Sorry.
My audience can't hear it. My audience can't hear it. That's all right. I'll explain it to him later. So listen. It's only 30 seconds. Here we go.
I have a source, and everything the source has told me that has happened when we were lied to publicly has proven to be correct. So I am very inclined to believe this source on a couple of other things. And when I speak also to Lantis family, they are confirming what this source is telling me. So we're going to go through this. So they released the photo. And then we are told, as my source initially told me, that it was the mother who recognized Tyler, and she phones him up. Tyler says, Mom, I'm sick. She doesn't believe it. She loops in Dad. Okay.
Now, here's a source that's saying what she just said. If you couldn't hear the audio, was my source that's been right, that's connected to Tyler's family, said that what happened was Tyler's mom saw the picture, thought it looked like him. They contacted him. Then, in other words, what's in the actual prosecution order is correct. But then now Candace is saying, I have a different source that's telling me, no, that's not what happened. So my question to you, Bobby, is if we have to accept that Candace is super connected and has these sources, what do we do when the sources directly contradict each other?
What do we do when the sources contradict each other?
Yeah, when one source says Tyler confessed and the other one says Tyler didn't confess.
I don't know.
Dude,
this is the thing. It's like, this is the thing, is that I have stated my position about the Tyler Robinson case very clearly. And I articulated it very, very clearly to you in the last time that we spoke. And it's been more than obvious to any person that's been following anything that I've ever posted online, what my positions are, what my belief is, and what my understanding of it is. But like, again, I'm not Candace. I can't speak to the specific details of every single thing that Candace has said. I haven't watched every single episode. So if we go back and meticulously go through, of which you've like prepared these clips to quiz me on.
No, he was
I don't know.
No, I had these clips for Candace.
Okay, great.
Candace on.
Okay, fine. But I didn't see them presented at the thing. But either way, I'm just saying.
PBD, not me.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, if we're going to go back through every single thing that Candace has ever said and speak to my understanding of what Candace meant, or as if it is,
you appreciate. That's why. Like, I know. First of all, Bobby, you're a reasonable person, and you're not making.
I'd like to believe so.
No, but you are. I don't understand what your what's the word? Not obsession, but rather you give a benefit of the doubt to Candace when I think I gave her the benefit of the doubt for a long time and now no longer, because when you make a 1 year industry off spreading gossip, innuendo, and then just hiding behind the I feel that's just my opinion, man.
I give the benefit of the doubt to my uncertainty of Tyler Robinson's guilt.
No, but that's true. But
That's
that's
fair.
Candace so happens to be one person that is further deepening that understanding based on the evidence that she's presented. But she's not the only person that's talked about this that I formulate all of my positions from. She's just one of a multitude of people that are talking about this case that have sowed a lot of doubt into my mind and many other people's.
Well,
mind.
I don't know
It's
how
like-
she could sow doubt by spreading innuendo and unsubstantiated claims of receipts. If that's how she does it, then like I said from the beginning, she's doing more harm than good to getting to the actual conspiracy. But just, I want to remind everybody, I said, I've invited real Candace on for a discussion multiple times. She's not accepted. Guess why? This is a response study. I invited Ian Carroll. He is not accepted, even though he's been on the channel. I invited Baron Coleman, MC Huya, Lionel Media. None of them accepted. Guess why? The people just asking questions don't like just answering questions, but your next pivot will just be accusing me of being a grifter by asking them on for a discussion. To which you said, I accepted, and you get a lot of traction, which people think, well, why don't you have Bobby on? This is why, Bobby. I don't expect you to answer for the claims that Israel did it, because you didn't make that claim. I don't expect you to answer for the claim as to how you go for a 3-hour podcast saying it's been demonstrably proven now that it couldn't have been Tyler because he was at a restaurant in Panguitch because of a receipt that Candace says she saw, posts a redacted version of through Diligent Denizen, and then finally has to concede a year later, how many 3 months later. That she never tied it to Tyler before positively asserting it proved, which is why she put it on her timeline that he couldn't have been there. I mean, this is irresponsible at best if you're giving the benefit of the doubt.
Well, again, if you look at what that tweet actually said, you just said the people asking questions don't want to answer questions. So I came on as a person who's asking questions to answer questions, but the question is but he's going back and saying, "Well, look what Candace said on this obscure clip from the show from 4 months ago that I prepared." It's like, okay,
it was clear from that tweet. The questions I have questions about is that it was an exploding microphone when O'Neill comes out and makes his now viral video. It was I have questions about the receipt,
but it's not asking. But just so we're clear, the questions haven't been, what do you think about this? This are, what do you think that Candace meant, or what do you think that Candace is saying here?
If I may, real quick. But for me, I think that a step that you're making a fair point here. That's fair. No one would expect you. I understand what Viva's saying. That look, he wants to talk to these people and thought that you were sort of a stand-in to at least try to explain maybe what they're thinking. But I think what we're saying is relevant to you is, you keep being what I would consider overly charitable to Candace. You're like, and in fact, when you kind of, I don't give a shit, we're having fun here. I'm having fun anyway. When you kind of jumped on me about interrupting you, what I was saying was, you're like, well, she has all these connected sources. And I was like, but you don't know that. And so real quick. So when you're defending these sources and I'm like, okay, then what do we do when these sources contradict? And you're like, I don't know, I'm not Candace. Do you understand why it's relevant to bring this up? Because you believe that she has these truthful sources that are giving some sort of facts of the case. And now for the first time you're seeing, wait a minute, these sources contradict. There's no proof to these sources, etc. And so I hope that it's a little illuminating for you and people that are following Candace thinking they're getting truth. Even if you don't believe everything she's saying, she can't defend any of these claims. It took $300,000 to get her in a room to try to get her to defend these claims, and she ran. She did not present one piece of evidence for any of the claims that he was a patsy or that Israel, France, or whatever did it.
Let me read this.
Okay.
Let me just get back, just to finish the receipt one. The steakhouse is 200 miles away. He was allegedly spotted at the steakhouse at 8:45. Described to you quickly. He allegedly sent a text message. If they are off by, this was me saying, the 2.5 hours leaves enough room. She says he paid his bill at 9:47 p.m. in Panguitch with a credit card. Not, I think he did. Not the witnesses, the persons say they saw someone who they thought was him pay. He paid his bill. And I say, do you have a receipt? And she says, stay tuned, 9:47 p.m. Feel free to save this tweet. It will age well. Yeah. Then she gets up with Andrew and says, well, I was just saying stay tuned for the follow-up report from Diligent Denizen, who she didn't report on because it was his story, and I've never actually tied the receipt. Give me an effing break, Bobby.
Okay, so as it relates to Candace having sources or her being reliable, Would you concede that? Would you concede that Candace Owens had a very long-term, intimate friendship with Charlie Kirk?
It was a long term. I'm not sure if it was intimate or a friendship, from what I've been told. But
she was friends at one point, whether or not there was acrimony towards the end. But yeah, she had a relationship with him. Sure,
a long-term relationship.
Sure.
With him.
Yep.
Okay. Would you agree that she worked at Turning Point for a number of years?
I would say that more than that, she built it up.
Correct.
She built it up with Charlie Kirk.
Okay, great. Okay, so she had an intimate relationship with Charlie Kirk in the sense that she was friends with him for a number of years, at the very least colleagues. And she worked at Turning Point USA and helped and was there in the building blocks of that organization being assembled, correct?
Sure.
Okay.
I think she would have even been in love with Charlie Kirk, and a lot of this is motivated by spite and anger at Eric.
You can think that, but
that's my belief, which is just a theory.
You're entitled to that belief. So then, okay, so now would you agree that a lot of the people that worked at Turning Point USA with Candace, that she likely, or perhaps it's even probable, or at least a chance, that she would continue to have a relationship with those people as friends or as colleagues, the people that she helped to build that organization with that still work there?
Perhaps. I would assume she was in communication with some people that were still at Turning Point. I fully concede that.
Okay.
I might hypothesize another angle. To the extent that she has gotten into bitter wars with everyone and anyone she's ever had a professional relationship with, I wouldn't be surprised if everyone at Turning Point says, stay the hell away from her. Clearly she can't be trusted. And don't.
That is
don't
what they were saying.
Well, obviously
but
not.
There were still,
obviously not if they were feeding her information.
Can I help make your case for you, Bobby? There were certainly, even if that was the official party line at Turning Point, that doesn't mean that everyone was following that. And I fully believe there were people at Turning Point communicating with Candace. I completely concede that.
Right. Hold on. We're speaking to the credibility of the sources, because you guys are kind of making it seem like she has no sources. She's just a random gal on the internet.
She has only unnamed anonymous sources.
Fine. Okay. But
until they're named Mitch Snow.
Can I take this when he's done? I have something to say.
Okay. So she knows Charlie Kirk for a long period of time, knows all of his friends, knows the people around him, knows his wife, knows all the people that are connected to him. She worked at the organization that she's now leading, that Charlie was a part of, and helped build it from the ground up, built relationships with all those associated people that worked there, all of the vendors, the people that came in and out of there. So she has relationships with all of these people. After the fact, after she's out of Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk is assassinated, a lot of the people, you have to also understand that she's conducting an open source, crowdsourced investigation of which many people believe that her connection to the case is deep and meaningful. It's not just Baron Coleman. It's a person that's connected. Maybe they're in Turning Point USA or adjacent around it. It would be highly likely that those types of people would know information or know things from the inside that would be able to pass that information on to her that she was unable to verify or unable to say or unable to share. And the other thing that's important to understand about this is that there are a lot of things that people could have said to her that she cannot share. So, for example, and I'll just use this as an example. It's a hypothetical, but then you can go. In the event that Charlie Kirk told her something over the phone a week before he died in a conversation, they had a personal relationship. In the event he said, I'm worried about this thing, but she can't prove it. There's no evidence to prove it. There's no text message to prove it. She can't prove it.
If I may,
she knows it. She knows it, and she can't prove it to you. So that may be in furtherance of her having these beliefs.
Please, excuse me. I really want to address this. I have two things to say. I feel this is all in the feeling of feelings and vibes, which just isn't evidence. And if I could say the 2 points I have is this. The first is many of the sources that she's talking that are relevant about like whether or not Tyler Robinson did this has nothing to do with Turning Point. Like I have a source that knows Tyler Robinson's family. Just getting rumors and gossip at Turning Point about whether or not Charlie and Erica were having arguments or what donors thought, that's not evidence to a murder whatsoever. But if I can't convince you of that, can I ask, I was good faith in answering your points there about her connections, correct?
Yes.
Will you please, I let you go for a while. I was good faith. You could just nod if you think. Will you concede that Andrew Colvett had a friendship and intimate relationship with Charlie Kirk?
Sure.
Will you concede that Erica Kirk had an even more intimate relationship with Charlie Kirk?
Sure.
Would you concede that they still have a lot of connections to the organization they still run, Turning Point?
Yes.
So when they're talking about how Candace is full of shit, shouldn't we accept their even more intimate relationship
No, because the
as
assumption
evidence they're telling the truth?
Not if they had a part in it.
Oh, but they think Candace is part of it. They think
Okay.
Candace is problem. So how do we,
I don't
now that we're
heard
just,
anyone make
last
that
thing I'll say,
assertion.
now that we're just talking about feelings and vibes about who we think had more of an intimate relationship and more access to pertinent information, can we get to evidence instead of just our feelings and vibes?
That's not what I said, dude. That's not what I said.
It's the implication.
Okay, that is a great way to just jump over all of the other substance of it. You were talking about how she doesn't have sources or we can't validate these sources. And he was
talking about how you can't validate them, and all you said was trust her, bro. Like,
no,
you know,
what I'm saying,
connections, trust her.
I'm
she
not
says
saying
anonymous sources.
I'm just saying to pretend that she has that she would not have any source that would be credible.
No one's saying that. No one's saying. We're saying that. Just saying I have a source.
You implied it. It was implicated.
No. What we're saying is just her saying that her potentially knowing people at Turning Point doesn't mean that we should just accept when she says, here's a receipt. I can't verify it, but a source told me it may be Tyler Robinson. And you're like, well, she would know people, so we have to validate that? That's absurd.
If she had said, I can't verify it, that would have been better already. She didn't even say that. I want to bring this one up because it's pissing me off. It caught my eye and I'm going to bring it up now. Viva is jealous Candace pocketed $300,000 and has a huge audience. I don't know if this is sarcastic. I could pocket $300,000 also by spreading this type of bullshit and jumping on the bandwagon and telling the people who are super chatting hundreds of thousands of dollars exactly what they want to hear. She got $21,000 in super chat from that debate. If I wanted to make the money, I could do the exact same thing. And it's pretty much what you know, entertain stuff that I think is fundamentally untenable. I don't care about the size of an audience, never have. But if you think the size of the mob dictates the rightness of the mob, you're an idiot. And by the way, I would suggest this is more confession through projection than anything. What is all the gold of the world for he who has sold their soul? So I don't care about it. What pisses me off, there's a lot of people who are being misled by this to their own destruction. And there's a lot of people making a shit ton of money off of this by purportedly, benevolently pursuing the truth when all that they're doing is peddling in rumors. Trust me, bro, on my anonymous source for the French Legion that wanted to kill me. And why didn't the FBI follow up on it? Maybe they did and found out that the French Legion wasn't there the day of, or maybe for another reason they said this is all a load of crap. An anonymous source for the French Legion. An anonymous source for, what were the others, Rob, what were the other things that she had anonymous sources for?
The family of Tyler Robinson, the connection,
right.
which, by the way, actually could put her in jeopardy of getting a gag order. When she says, because her argument is, Tyler Robinson, just think about this for a second, Bobby. Are you a parent? Do you mind me asking? I know Viva is. I'm a parent. Are you a parent, Bobby?
No.
But you can imagine you have loved ones, a nephew, a brother, sister. Imagine that your loved one is facing the death penalty. And part of the prosecution document is that you said a bunch of stuff. You said, yeah, that looks like him. He admitted to me it was him. And you never did that. Is there anything that could keep you from speaking up to the heavens and saying, this is bullshit? This never occurred.
Let me interrupt you because I'll defend, I won't defend Bobby here, but I'll raise the proper argument to this is that there might be good reasons why they wouldn't say it in the court of public opinion and even outside of court, and you can raise that argument. And Bobby, this is going to be to you. This is going to be to Baron Coleman, to Candace Owens, who misunderstood a lot of things in law. When they say they could not, the family was not allowed to raise these defenses at the preliminary hearing, that's wrong. It's flat out legally wrong. So I could make some arguments as to why they wouldn't go say it extrajudicially. It's flat out wrong to suggest that if the parents wanted to testify and say, no, I didn't turn him in, no, I didn't identify him, that they were precluded from doing so at the preliminary hearing. It's wrong, which means, if I borrow somebody's language, they're either ignorant or a liar. It's wrong. And so people were saying that, and it is legally wrong. Now, would they hold on to that argument for the trial? That's what some people want you to believe. Other people want you to believe that had the parents testified, they would have been asked if Tyler Robinson confessed to other crimes, and he would have had to say yes, and that would be damn bullshit, as if they would get away with such a fishing expedition of irrelevant questions. But that's where I say they're misleading people.
And if I can real quick, and Bobby, I don't know if you understand this because it's something I had to learn through this process. Yes, these probable cause hearings, they're sort of rare, right? And so it's like, wow, geez, what's allowed to be raised? The defense is allowed to raise objections to what the prosecution has said. Now, it is true that they're not necessarily incentivized to put all of their cards on the table. For example, if they have a competing theory, they might say, this competing theory might be enough to cast reasonable doubt, but wouldn't be enough to eliminate probable cause. So we'll keep it in our back pocket. But what what they would do is point to prosecutorial misconduct. And if they know the police and the prosecutors are intentionally lying about statements that the parents said that are very crucial to understanding how the timeline came about of him turning himself in, there is no chance the defense would not raise these objections. For example, the defense objected to the smallest thing. When the prosecution put a circle on a picture, they were like, no, you can't do that. That's sort of prejudicing the evidence. So why wouldn't they say, and oh, by the way, the police has claimed that the parents said this? That's all bullshit. The parents are right here to testify. We never said any of it.
But
Why
also,
wouldn't they do that?
Bobby, your understanding of the case, did the defense have the cell phone information at the time of the preliminary hearing?
Just to be clear, like, I'm not a legal scholar. I don't purport to be. I don't know the details of how the law works. My understanding of the preliminary hearing is that it's their job to react to the information, to the evidence that is presented by the prosecution.
Like the parents' claims, right?
Well, were they part of it, the parents' claims?
They were the prosecutorial, what's the exact term of it? They were part of the prosecution memorandum but yes, the initial prosecution filing.
But was it that did they give a direct statement to police that happened, or did the other person say that they said that?
But that's exactly the point. The Candace's claim is she has a source.
Well, what did they say? What did the prosecution say?
I believe it was in the write up of the evening, which said that Tyler's parents identified him, facilitated him coming in, and they say, well, that's
through someone else, right?
No, that's not what the filing said. I don't believe the filing said this other guy told us that the parents.
No. They're just saying it was the filing from the other guy. I forget his name. He was the guy that he filed.
Yes. So just to be clear, this is what their filing said that the parents said. They would absolutely be allowed to object to that and say that's never. Now, Candace's claim is I have a source that told me that the parents never said that. That was just his family friend that made that all up. But then I just played you a source from Candace saying I have a source that knows their family and said their family said that yes, they had this conversation. So she's provided at different times two different sources, one saying, yes, the parents of Tyler did have this conversation, the other saying, no, this never occurred. Either way, if that never occurred, there is no reason I could think of why the defense wouldn't stand up and say, Your Honor, this never happened. This family friend made it all up. And the police interviewed the parents and know that this never happened. And yet they're lying to you and implying that the parents said this. Why wouldn't the defense make that objection?
I don't know that they can legally. I don't know.
First of all, they could have, if there was falsified documents or any evidence of prosecutorial misconduct. That's where you'd want to get two kicks if they can. And like Andrea Burkhart said, they didn't raise it in their filing, the one that we were covering last week, because they didn't elicit any facts to challenge it at the preliminary hearing. And so it's not to say, I've been saying this, it's kind of an important distinction. They didn't do it because they couldn't at the time. They can't now because they didn't at the time. And then the question's only going to be, why didn't they at the time? And I say more likely than not, it's because they know that what the people who are just asking questions, who are really just, there's nothing wrong with being an advocate for a party. But the people who are just asking questions by contacting the defense, raising they're activists for Tyler Robinson. There's nothing wrong with that. But you might want to start asking yourself some questions when the actual counsel for Tyler Robinson doesn't incorporate your cut and dry evidence that he couldn't have been at Orem when he sent that text message, and that his parents didn't actually identify him and turn him in, and that all those messages were falsified, and they can prove it. They had the cell phone information. It was communicated to them as of March. And so when people say they couldn't challenge that evidence because they didn't have it because it hadn't been communicated to them, not true. Period.
Okay.
And the fact that they have big audiences, that they're wildly misleading into this derangement syndrome at a mass scale. I don't care about the money. I don't care about anything. I care about the accuracy. And I also care about the fact that not only do I have questions, I have a better alternative theory as to the actual conspiracy here. And nobody's going to feel compelled to even address these issues because everyone's going to get lumped into the dishonesty and the misrepresentations.
Well, in the event that the information that was brought up at the preliminary hearing, in the event that hearsay was admissible, then them saying the parents didn't say that and the other guy saying they did, what good would that do them?
No, but they could have actually, hearsay means like out of court comments, right? that speak to the truth of something, but they had the ability to actually bring the parents in, which
Look-
would have superseded the hearsay. If I say Viva told me this, and you're like, okay, I'm going to directly ask Viva, and Viva says, no, I didn't, then that would supersede my claim of what Viva, they could have brought the parents up. They chose not to.
So
Okay,
Nate the lawyer.
There could be
and-
any multitude of reasons as to why they didn't do that. I don't know why.
and one of which is because it wouldn't have been true because the mother
Right.
did.
Oh,
So, but now,
no, you don't know that.
Well, no, but I know that they didn't even raise an argument to suggest that, so I have no reason to believe that anything other than the fact that it's true is the case.
Oh, interesting. That's
when the
a
defense-
very interesting level. Do you see what you just did there? You drew a
said that the
conclusion
defense-
based on what you believed was what you
No,
believed to be clear.
With
No, what-
evidence.
But
No,
you
what
just
I
said it's false. You said that means that it's a lie.
Bobby, let me clarify the distinction, which I'm not. You missed it. The defense didn't raise it. So I'm not saying what I believe. I'm saying what I know is that the defense didn't raise it. And so you're going to say, well, I still choose to believe the fact
You
that
said,
the defense.
but you said they didn't raise it because it would be a lie. That's what you said.
No. Well, sorry, I said they
That
didn't
is the
raise it.
most logical inference to draw.
Yeah,
What we do-
logical inferences.
No, no,
That's
no,
what
no.
everybody's
But Bobby,
been doing.
no,
But
Bobby,
you're like,
may I-
what evidence do you have of that?
No,
The,
may I, Bobby?
hold
The
on, Rob.
difference is-
The evidence is that the defense didn't raise the argument that you're raising.
Just because
If I
they didn't.
can't-
Just
if
because
I
they didn't
can-
raise it doesn't mean it's not true.
Bobby-
Doesn't mean that they're not saving it for some other reason.
But here's the deal, Bobby.
Just because
What
I'm
we're-
just saying you can't state that it is that if
what
you
we can
don't know.
What we do is we draw inferences from the best available evidence to make the
Oh.
best. Let me finish.
Like Candace
Don't-
is doing.
No, that's not what Candace.
Like I'm
Candace is
doing.
not
For
their defense.
example-
But Bobby, there is no comparison between what the defense of the defendant has and has not done versus what some pontificating true crime theorist has been putting up for a year. The defense did
friend.
not raise the argument that you're saying is true. And now you're going to say, I still choose to believe it's true because I'm hoping they're going to raise
If
it
I-
later.
if I-
And they
if-
made a decision.
If I may, if I could jump in here real quick, right?
Go,
Because
please.
no one's suggesting that you can't draw conclusions without 100% knowing something. Of course, what we all do in life, whether it be through, trying to analyze something like this or any litany of things, is we oftentimes don't have 100% of the facts, but draw the most reasonable conclusion. That's not what's occurring here. Instead, what they're doing is saying, is there something plausible? Therefore, I infer that's what happened. Let me give you an example. When we have the confessions of Tyler Robinson in the messages to Lance Twiggs, in the debate, what did she say? She just said, well, Lance Twiggs could have wrote those. And so therefore she has 0% likelihood that Tyler Robinson did it. In other words, because it is a possibility, but there's no evidence that he did it, but it's just hypothetically a possibility that Lance Twiggs wrote that confession and pretended to be Tyler Robinson. That allows her to conclude there is a 0% chance. If you look at Candace's theory and her inferences in totality, I call it the maximal theory. Here's a brief list of people that would need to be involved. Security at UVU, the medical examiners, the ballistics experts, the FBI, the Trump administration, Israel, the French Foreign Legion, Mormon beekeepers, Masonic cults, Egyptian planes. We would have to have involved Tyler Robinson's parents that know that they're being lied about, but staying silent and not bringing it up. An entire hospital staff, that a hospital was emptied out. That means not just doctors and nurses, but janitors, maintenance staff, every person that was in that hospital as a patient, all of the families of the patient,
But-
all of these people, and that's just a small list. And
Hold on,
you're like,
stop there.
well, it's
Stop there, by the way.
hypothetically possible.
what-
Drawing inferences.
One of it's funny that you mentioned that they cleared out the hospital while simultaneously one of the critiques is that they didn't administer first aid to him on the scene. So they cleared out the hospital and then rushed him there, but they fault them for rushing him there, but they cleared out the hospital. But all that to say, I forgot what I was about to. Oh, and hold on. What I wanted to say is we might have another lawyer joining us. But let me read the super chats.
There would have been a
Hold on.
lot of people that knew about 9/11 too, but somehow they managed to pull that.
But this is why, like, there's 9/11. You have like
had to have the whole city of New York involved.
No, that's not true.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, you listed off a bunch of people. You just like rattled off a bunch
Here,
of
okay,
people
hold
that
on.
have to know
Nate
everything.
the lawyer. Nate the lawyer,
so
who everybody
untrue.
knows is great. By the way, and I encourage everybody to go follow you guys. Respective handles now. Rob Noerr at X and Bobby. No, yours is takes naps, right, Bobby?
Take naps. Yeah.
Take naps. Nate,
Delete one after this.
the links are in the description. The cop said the parents told him X. That is hearsay, but allowed since the cop is under oath with risk of perjury.
Right.
Not allowed at trial because of Sixth Amendment. It was the charging documents, says Chuping. Thank you. That was what we were looking for, charging
And-
documents. I
And
hope he
just to
didn't
be
mean
clear, when Candace says this is all hearsay, the evidence of 801D2 that we put up on the screen, it's actually not hearsay. A confession isn't hearsay. It's called like
it's a statement made contrary to interests.
Correct.
Is the rough terminology.
So that's not hearsay. She was mistaken about that.
Exile Knights of Malta now. Jesuit money laundering Operation Bubba. She's going to give it to Macron, and you know what they're going to do with it. What kind of friend isn't invited to his wedding? Bobby, was she not invited to his wedding?
I don't think she was at his wedding. No.
Was she invited to his wedding?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I didn't say if she was at the wedding. Would be implied potentially she was invited and couldn't go. Let's see if she was invited to his wedding.
I don't know. Maybe
relevant.
she wasn't. Maybe she wasn't. I don't know.
That's not much of a friend. What bunch of gossip? What a bunch of gossipy chick shit. That's from Lord of the Nerds. But what is the evidence? People say that they never provide a shred of evidence that Candace Owens has proved, but she states evidence is fed slop, maddening. The bottom line is she didn't provide any.
She didn't present any.
May I call in? I have a different perspective, says Andrew Starr. I don't do the call-ins yet. I kind of want to. Heretic crooks of the biscuits is Jesuit candy boils down to a toxic nationalist. It's worth rehab. Okay, super chats are highlighted. Okay, with the Jesuit, I don't know what the Jesuit angle is here. Phone of Alex says Andrew is only qualified to be a spokesman for pickle jar openers. That's funny.
It was an olive jar, not a pickle jar. It was
well, at least if he was going to put it in a martini, that's the only good excuse.
Yeah.
People even haven't even watched the full show. Says she has no evidence. This is what drives me nuts. I'll get there in a second. I don't know why everyone trusts the government so much. Nobody trusts the government. They won't even admit that there are things that should be at least explored. We have admitted there are tons of things that need to be explored. I don't need to watch every episode and then be accused of like, it's so stupid. You have to watch every episode to no, you don't. Oh, Nate's there.
Hey,
Nate.
what's going on?
Okay, I don't know. Nate, are you gonna come to Bobby's assistance here?
For what?
I don't know. In general, do I put you on this side?
No,
who knows Nate the lawyer?
I know Nate.
Oh, nice to meet you.
I've watched Nate. I've never talked to Nate, but I know him. I've watched the show.
Nate, tell everybody who you are.
I'm Nate the lawyer. I'm just Google me on YouTube. I'm the one of the most hated YouTube lawyers out there. So that's what I'll say.
Nate, what were you? So, what have we said legally that might require clarification or that might be contradictable?
Well, I just it's not contradictable. I think there's a lot of confusion on the process here. The process of what happened, what the preliminary hearing was for, if hearsay is allowed or not, what exactly is hearsay. So I wanted to just kind of see. It seemed like you guys were trying to get through it. So I just wanted to just clarify any of those questions you may have had.
The hearsay, I think we understand the hearsay. We understand hearsay is allowed at the preliminary hearing. The question I had was when people were suggesting that they could not raise certain arguments at the preliminary hearing. If they thought that the text message, if they had the slightest commencement of evidence that the text messages that everyone says were written like that's not how murderers write, like anybody knows, that they couldn't have challenged the authenticity of those text messages at that time, and if they had a commencement of evidence that they wouldn't have for any strategic reason. Do you have any insights on those two options?
Well, generally, the defense can challenge the evidence, but we're talking about this is not beyond a reasonable doubt. So we're talking about a preponderance of the evidence. So even if you get one piece of evidence thrown out, the judge can still look at everything else and say, you know what, even though that bullet's not 100% on point, the fact that we got DNA and all this other stuff gives us probable cause to move forward.
Yeah, but hold on.
To have a trial.
Thrown out is different than fabricated by the prosecution. If they could prove,
yes, if they can prove something is fabricated, obviously
that would
be remote. And but again, like I said, even if you get that one piece of evidence thrown out, there's a presentation of everything. Now, a lot of people also don't understand this. Generally, in probable cause determinations, let's say for like a grand jury, the defense attorney's not there. It's only the prosecutor telling the grand jury everything. So in that case, the defense attorney is not there challenging any evidence. The prosecutor presents it, and then the new person gets indicted. So in this particular case, it's really the prosecution show. Here's what we have. I hate saying probable cause because it's a lot of people. It's like it, but you really don't know what it means. Mm-hmm. What probable cause actually means is, has there been a crime? Is there evidence that a crime has been committed? And is it likely the person you're about to seize or take the trial is the person that committed that crime? So do you have evidence of that? And it's a very low standard. So if you have evidence of those two things, then you have probable cause. And that was what they were trying to determine in that courtroom. Now, how does that play in with something like hearsay? Well, hearsay is an out-of-court statement offered for the truth of the matter asserted. And a lot of people forget that last part. For instance, if I say, hey, if I'm at court on the stand, given testimony, and I say, Viva told me it was raining outside. But the question is, Nate, was it raining outside? The attorney says, Nate, was it raining outside? I said, well, Viva told me it was raining outside. That's hearsay. Why? Because I actually don't know if it was raining outside. Viva knows, but Viva's not in the stand to say. So that's unreliable. But if the question's asked, Nate, why did you have an umbrella with you? And then I say, because Viva told me it was raining outside, I'm still telling you what Viva said, but it's not to prove it was raining outside. It was to prove that why I had the umbrella. Does that make sense? I haven't taught this since I taught law school, but that's what we're talking about hearsay. So at the preliminary stages of a trial, hearsay is allowed because cops usually talk to witnesses. As a cop, you talk to witnesses, you get the interview. And just like in this case, the cop gets on the stand and says, under oath, I swear and under oath, and if I'm telling a lie, I get prosecuted, that I talked to this person, and this person told me this. And I swear to God, they told me. And I swear, and that's he talked to the mother, he talked to the guy.
And I go to jail.
And I go to jail if I'm lying. The difference with that hearsay, that's why they call it reliable hearsay, versus the hearsay for Candace Owens, is that Candace Owens is saying, I have a source who I don't know who told me this. That would be unreliable hearsay. Reliable hearsay is that I can hold this person accountable if they're lying about. Now, you guys have said you had two accounts. One person saying the parents said X. Another person saying the parents haven't said anything. Well, the court will rely on the person coming to the stand, right, and saying, I swear under penalty of perjury that the parents did not, but we're not at that stage. So at trial, I would suspect that person would come and say that on the stand.
Yeah, but
there's
Nate,
an issue with that.
If it was in fact the case that what's being said here is not that nobody's coming, but that the opposite is true, that the parents never identified him or the mother never identified him, and that the cop is perjuring himself. I forget who it was now. I saw the name. If they would come in and show that the cop is perjuring himself to make a false statement from the parents to facilitate the arrest, first question, they would have and did in fact have the opportunity to raise that at the preliminary hearing, correct?
Yeah, they would have had.
If they could have come in at the preliminary hearing and show that that officer lied under oath in his written statement, the charging document, or whatever it was that was with the charging document, saying that the parents identified him, do you think that they would not have tried to do that if it were true and they could prove it?
It'd be ridiculous not to.
Okay.
It would just be ridiculous not to, because again, you're going for determination. Is it likely my client did this? And if you can show
this is the whole point,
that it's not likely my client did this, and some of the underlying evidence, you can show. But again, I do want to make it clear there are limitations on what the defense can do, because this is not the trial part. This is just
agreed. And they'll have an opportunity at the trial
rebut
to rebut it and create reasonable doubt. If they could undermine or prove fabricated evidence at the preliminary hearing to deny probable cause, they would obviously do it, take two kicks at the can, and not risk going to a trial that carries with it the death penalty.
And Nate, can I jump in real quick? Another piece of evidence that I would question like that we hear from like sort of the Candace crowd is that there was an intentional manipulation by the prosecution of the video evidence. They shrunk it, they manipulated it to make it look more like Tyler. Given that the defense actually objected when they were just marking it up with a red marker, wouldn't you suspect that the defense would have said, excuse me, Your Honor, that evidence has been manipulated by the FBI to intentionally manipulate this footage?
I would have said if the defense has evidence, has reason to believe the evidence has been doctored, this or this or this. Obviously, if you're presenting that evidence to determine if there's probable cause, any way that you can show that evidence has been doctored or anything, you would present that at that particular moment. Now, I do want to say to the point that sometimes you may hold something back, because maybe you're saying, hey, you know what, they're going to win probable cause anyway. Why should I give up on this one thing, right? Why should I prove this one thing so they can be prepared for it, where I'll hold it bahave at trial, boom, I'm laying it out. It's like, oh my God, we didn't know that. So, because there's things here. So I don't want to give a blanket that they'd have showed all their cards there. Because I think in this case, probable cause is it's the video is probable cause in of itself.
Well,
right?
No, it's probable cause if the evidence hasn't been falsified. So, and the issue, I can appreciate things to raise reasonable doubt, contradictory evidence, prove your case, fine. Maybe you save those for later on. Mm-hmm. When the allegation or the accusation is the prosecution fabricated text messages, manipulated videos, if that is true, and you can, you raise it at the preliminary hearing because nothing would deny or undermine probable cause more than prosecutorial misconduct, perjury, etc.
But
This is why it drives me crazy that they pretend that they couldn't do it. They could do it, and they chose not to. And then you can only, surmise as to why.
But I want to be fair though. It's possible. Yes, what you're saying is obviously true, but there is strategy involved sometimes, and a strategy is the video is enough. The video and his DNA being there is enough, right? The fact that he went there is enough. So if I'm the defense and I know I'm going down that road anyway, and I have evidence that I know that they don't know that I have or something, I might want to hold it back and then hit them with it later on. Now, generally, the court doesn't allow surprises. But what I'm saying is I can see a world where you hold something back to shock the other side. Like what happened with the Mangione case today. Like he went inside there and pled guilty, and they were shocked that he pled guilty, but he did that so he could stop the life imprisonment on New York. So that's what I'm saying. I don't want to give I don't want to say this is absolutely why they're doing it, because there could be some reason that I'm just not seeing.
But
just
Nate,
to be fair,
and I'll just say this real quick. I totally agree, and obviously I'm not an attorney, so if I'm completely wrong, one of you two can shut me down. But I think there's a difference between holding your cards, because my understanding would be this: if I could have a plausible and reasonable alternative theory, that would not cross the bar of proving there's not probable cause. For example, if there are two likely theories, that's still probable cause. But if there are two equally likely theories, it would not meet the bar of reasonable doubt. You would say,
Correct.
no, it's other. So you might say, if we have an alternate theory, we'll hold that evidence back because it wouldn't be enough. But I think there's a difference to having evidence of prosecutorial misconduct. And given that we can see that it just the slightest thing, when the prosecution marked up the video, that they were like, objection, you're not allowed to mark up the video. If it's so obvious, as all of these people on Candace's side are saying, they intentionally scrunched the video. All of us internet sleuths would say, I can't see a world where the defense, particularly when you're saying the video enough's enough for probable cause, that the defense wouldn't be like, objection, they're intentionally manipulating the video.
It's obvious that the surveillance footage, although compressed because of the angle, was the original video, and that corrected one was the modified one. Yes. And my tweet will age well on that. If I may, guys, let me entertain the chat over on Locals, because I think they have some questions. Who's that? Oh, is that yeah. Hold on, let me see here.
Just so you know, Viva, I only got about 10 to 15 more minutes, then I got.
Okay, cool. We'll wind it down then. Dapper Dave says it's hilarious that, well, there's more down here. That is the exact point I made. Law enforcement job to subpoena the debit cards. You conveniently gloss over that. I don't gloss over anything, Dapper Dave. She made a statement, led people to believe the receipt proved something that she knows that it didn't when she made that statement. Dapper Dave says there's a huge difference of saying Tyler Robinson's in a patsy and that Tyler Robinson was not involved at all. I agree.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Viva Fry, it's hilarious that you act like Candace does not have a full team behind her that assists her in her journalism investigations, to include a legal team. Maybe she does. She's got a huge team. They didn't provide any evidence to substantiate any claims that she made over the last.
She got the law wrong all in that debate, though. Yep. She was all over the place with the law, so.
Viva is offering his own psychobabble podcaster slop here. Disappointing waste of time. Roostang and Dapper Dave, as you can see, even in our own community, are Team Candace. What's next? The Strait of Hormuz and part of Oman are now declared U.S. territory. Yeah. Okay, Bobby, we haven't talked to you in a long time. Let me get this out of here. Here we go. Actually, no, hold on. There was one here that I want to bring up. It was in Rumble, where it says, one thing I got to fix here is when I bring this up on the screen, our faces cover it. Let me bring this up here. It says,
not that handsome anyways. It's all right.
I can't even bring this up. It says, Viva, have you considered that for strategic purposes, prosecutors have decided to not indict co-conspirators into the murder until after a successful guilty finding? One of the frustrations that many people have raised is that it is clear, or it appears to be clear, that other people were involved, and one of the theories as to why they may have shut down the investigations and not pursued them, Joe Kent, his request being refused, is because maybe it might complicate things to the point where it would risk a conviction of Tyler Robinson, and they want to get one conviction out of this so that people can feel justice has been served. I can appreciate that, but that's not at all what has been the last 11 months of this true crime drama gossip fest of one lead after another. Tune in tomorrow, watch my show. And the aspersions that they've been casting on people because they've, are operating on the basis that they were somehow involved. I wouldn't be surprised, but a lot of people were pissed and got the impression that they shut down the investigation just to focus it on Tyler Robinson so as not to complicate or potentially endanger or risk the conviction of Tyler Robinson. Legit concern. Bobby, what's your biggest question in all of this? Like, you go to the screwdriver was described in a different location. Then the camera going off. Okay, fine. I don't know that many people have ever put this much granular focus on any investigation ever in the history of law enforcement. I bet you'd find a lot more anomalies and evidence of police incompetence in every single prosecution. But what's your biggest piece of substantiating evidence that Tyler Robinson is a patsy in any varying degree of the spectrum of the meaning?
This is the thing. It's like I have not declared, and like I told you before, it's like I have never declared that I think that I know that I am for certain, or that I have evidence to prove that Tyler Robinson is a patsy. This has never been my position. It's never been any single thing that I have stated. I've told you at the beginning, like, I'm not Candace Owens. I didn't know that I had to come on here to defend every statement that Candace Owens has ever made and debate whether or not that's legitimate or she has some source that leads her to believe that. But I just don't think that I don't even think we're even talking about the same thing. The things that she presents as evidence, as things that she's done as much as a human person that's not in law enforcement could research in order for it to be quantified as evidence, you say that's not evidence.
What's
the best thing that Candace? What's the best piece of evidence that Candace broke?
What's the best piece of evidence that Tyler Robinson is guilty?
You want me to go? I have a list.
No, hold on, stop. Don't entertain the question. He'll have his trial. What's the best piece of evidence that probable cause?
I never said he was a patsy. I never said I had evidence he's a patsy. These are not my positions. These have never been my dispositions at all. And I'm not Candace Owens.
Can I step in?
Well, you do concede this has been Candace Owens' bread and butter and underlying theory for the last 11 months, that TPUSA was in on it. Like, you concede that, correct?
Do I think that she believes that they are implicit somehow?
No. Do you agree that she has specifically, overtly, and repeatedly said it or suggested it?
I think that she has suggested that she believes that. Yes.
Okay.
How about this? Would this be fair, Bobby? We give you an opportunity, unfettered, to lay out the best case that maybe the state's case is wrong, and then I'll give you my evidence why the state's case is right. Is that fair? Can we do that?
Why don't you tell me why the state's case is right?
Yeah,
Nate, go for it.
Just one
thing. This is over.
I think I understand what you're saying. What he's saying, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong. You're saying that, hey, I'm just not convinced that everything that I'm being told by the prosecutor is correct. And Candace has pointed out some holes that hasn't convinced me to the point beyond a reasonable doubt. Is that what you're saying? That's what it sounds like you're saying to me.
Yes.
And you guys are saying that there has been enough evidence that would convince a reasonable person beyond a reasonable doubt.
I'm not saying that.
I know it's wrong, because I think that's what he's saying you're doing to him. He's saying that you guys are packing him into a corner where it's like, I absolutely have to take the side. That's why I tried to flip it on you to show that. No, I'm not saying that, because that's what he's saying on the other side.
That's not what we're doing.
I don't know, but you're not meaning on doing it, but I'm saying that's what's like happening.
I just want to be clear. What all I asked there was, you have problems with the case. Cool. Can we hear the problems? And he said, well, can you outline the case? I'd love to do that. Can I outline the case? Why I think the evidence suggests
Bobby, that's a fair question.
Yeah, if you
I think that's a fair question. What makes you unconvinced?
I can do that.
30-06 doesn't do what it did.
I can do that.
So he's now gonna lay it out.
And then I'll outline my case.
Yes, exactly. That's fair.
Bobby.
Fine. Okay, so I think that a lot of these things are things that just create suspicion for me. It's not things that I am absolutely certain of. They don't prove anything in and of themselves in totality. Just to leave out all of the strange anomalies that have happened at Turning Point USA before Charlie was killed, after he was killed, the messaging, and all of the other sketchy things that surround it. Let's completely leave Turning Point USA out of the conversation for just right this second, and let's specifically talk about the details of the case. And again, these are just things that I place together as things that I consider to be strange and or suspicious. First and foremost, Tyler Robinson was not an outwardly political guy. His boyfriend admitted to him that he never talked to him about Charlie Kirk, that he never one single time ever mentioned Charlie Kirk's name to him ever. He said that he was not a political person. They didn't talk about LGBTQ issues, and he was not a political person at all. He said he listened to some things. He mentioned Trump offhand that he heard on the radio on his way to work. So he wasn't a very political guy. That's the first thing.
Can I stop you there?
No, yeah, because if you go through the whole list, it's going to be hard to go back.
So the
I want
man,
to make
the
sure I
man
get
that
to my list
man-
before I have to leave too, if I can. But
the man that everyone who may be involved in this is downplaying his potential involvement in this, and now we believe what Lance Twiggs said, even though it sort of contradicts what the parents said that he had gotten radicalized over the last year. Like, now you believe Lance Twiggs?
No, I'm saying that you believe Lance Twiggs.
Well, no. Well, I believe certain elements of Lance Twiggs.
Well, the
and
whole
then
case is predicated on his word,
no,
basically.
it's not like it's the probable cause. He's one of the witnesses, but you're seeing now
He's the
whole
most
issue
significant witness by a mile.
let's leave Bobby outline the whole case, and then I'd like to outline mine, and then we could go piece by piece.
Okay, you got to leave. So go for it. Do it.
Well,
Yeah,
just
I
said-
really
he
want to
just-
get through it.
Okay,
Well,
so you think you believe that Tyler Robinson was not political, but that's also not what Lance Twiggs said. But it's
But go ahead.
whatever.
Let him
That is what Lance Twiggs said.
He said he was listening to radio. He did some other stuff.
let
was
him go
political.
through his
Okay.
list because the other guy has to go. So yeah.
Okay. Well, that's the first thing. I think the fact that the video evidence that was presented of supposedly allegedly Tyler Robinson on the roof or on the roof is certainly inconclusive. So we can't prove that footage of the person on the roof was Tyler Robinson. I believe that there was an eyewitness testimony that said that there was a guy on the roof wearing a face mask on that day. Where is that? On top of that, I think that the video evidence of Tyler Robinson in the stairwell, I don't know that that's definitively Tyler Robinson. In fact, I don't really know that it's definitively his car in the garage. You can't see a license plate. There was no eyewitness. The car doesn't even really look exactly like his car. You can see the comparisons that they made of that front bumper. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't really see much evidence that proves that he was actually there. The guy that was depicted in the images, I've seen a lot of holes be presented with that. You don't know who took that shot on the roof, or even if a shot was even made from the roof. So there's nothing that really places him there on that roof. On top of that, I think that the text messages are suspicious. I think that the supposed confession note is supposedly suspicious. I think the probability that it's possible that he could have been in Panguitch certainly blows a hole in their timeline. I think the methodology by which he writes a confession note and then his boyfriend takes a picture of the confession note and then he texts an entire confession of that to him back. And then he comes home and theoretically somebody burns the note, but doesn't burn all of the note. My point is not that my position has never been that I am absolutely certain. I'm saying that the evidence that has been presented has not proven him to be guilty beyond a reasonable doubt or anywhere close to it. So of all of these sketchy things, it's like you could say, well, what's your evidence that he wasn't? I'm just saying that the totality of all of these things, which would take me 15 minutes to run through all of them, sow a lot of doubt. I don't know that the crucial pieces of evidence are very convincing.
Okay, if I may.
Yeah,
I'll outline mine.
Floor is yours. Floor is yours.
First off, no one's trying to prove beyond a reasonable doubt yet, so it would be completely understandable if you and all of us do not think he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't yet, because the state hasn't tried to prove it and the defense hasn't presented their defense. However, I will outline the case. I think that much of what you've said are just vibes of things that seem off to you. Any individual piece of evidence you might think seems weird, but it's the totality of everything pointing in the same direction. Let me begin. They have him on video in the garage moving across campus, coming back to campus in a hoodie with a stiff right leg with some rifle sized in his pant leg. Please. Something rifle size sees in his pant leg, climbing the stairs of the roof, moving across the roof, positioning 40 seconds before the shot, running off the roof, going to a wooded area where the rifle was found. Also have the video we haven't seen of him going to scope out the wooded area before the shooting. An officer ID'd from the footage, so did Twiggs, saying that it looked like Robinson. And he said it was him in the footage. And he turned himself in. Plus, his car is distinctive and they ran the plates. It was on campus on the AM and the morning of September 11th when he was trying to get the rifle. Confessions. There's text messages, Discord, and a goodbye note. Also to the parents, even though the parents haven't been to court yet. And he turned himself in. Confessions contain key details in addition, such as what was on the rifle, the engravings and the exact things that were written, the location of the drop site, etc. Lance Riggs verified that Twigs verified that the messages and gave testimony saying that Tyler Robinson said he did it. DNA on the rifle, the towel, the screwdriver on the roof all belong to Tyler Robinson as the major contributor. The tool used to engrave the bullets belonged to Tyler Robinson, and he had the major contributing of the DNA. The test engraved round in Tyler Robinson's homes and the targets he was test firing at with those rounds. The 30.6 saw points are consistent with the ballistics report, 30 caliber bolt that killed Charlie, according to the medical examiner, and the medical examiner's report. In the extent we've seen it, the bullet fragmented in his neck, they actually have the parts of the bullets. Testimony of the officers, medical examiners, all which is consistent with the angle, the bullet location, and the yaw of the shot that went into his neck. This is more evidence at this stage of a trial than I have seen in any trial in history.
Oh, well, that must mean that it's all true.
Well,
and that must mean that he's guilty because it's
I-
more
I-
than you've ever seen.
Hold on, I think
Who cares? We're reading through the evidence that all of us all have.
Bobby,
we're not
Bobby,
talking about
Bobby,
the same thing.
Bobby, no,
Bobby,
we're not.
And you
we're
just
not,
overlooked all of those things and just said a bunch of different details that this is what the state's presenting. Yeah, I could have told you what the state presented.
So
What
Bobby,
I'm presenting
congrats.
to you is the
You read back what the
totality.
state presented.
I'm
No, no,
giving you the
gentlemen.
totality of the
Gentlemen,
evidence.
I would say this. Well, to Bobby, you would agree. Would you agree that there is enough evidence that a crime likely was committed and that Tyler Robinson is likely the person that could have committed this crime? I'm not saying he's guilty. I'm not saying it's beyond a reasonable doubt. It's likely the evidence that shows that he's likely the one to commit this crime and that there was a crime committed. Would that be reasonable to say?
Well, look, Charlie Kirk is dead, so clearly a crime was committed.
And then, based on what the prosecution laid out, not the rebuttal, but just based on the prosecution, would you agree that you could make the case that it's likely Tyler Robinson committed this crime? Saying he did. Not saying he actually did.
Do I think it's likely, or do I think it's likely that you could make the case that
the evidence? Now you could make a case that the evidence shows somebody else did, but is it likely the evidence as laid out? That's generally that you said would say it's likely he could have committed this crime.
I think that it's sure it's likely that he could have. Yeah, I believe.
Yeah,
I don't believe that he did, but he could have. Yes.
But that's exactly where we should be at after probable cause here.
Right.
We don't know if he committed it, but it's based on the evidence that's presented. It's likely.
But all these people suggest that we're evil for not believing it. Beyond that, it's like, oh, you're evil. What do you have?
It's
like,
that's
the place. That's the place.
That's not true.
Yes,
no one
it
thinks
is.
you're evil for having a reasonable doubt. People are saying that it is bad to point to people like Erica Kirk and say you're a murderer or you're complicit in
not
murder.
Candace Owens.
Please, no one. We're not saying you're evil, right? The objection that people are raising aren't the people saying, I don't know, I have some questions. I've not seen one person, not one, online, anonymous, or anywhere, say anybody who says, wait a minute, I have some questions is evil. What I have seen people saying is people that are blaming and definitively saying it's Erica Kirk, it's Turning Point, it's Israel, without evidence or doing something very morally wrong.
I had a similar discussion earlier today. It'll get published in a bit. That's the people that people are calling evil, saying Erica Kirk was in on it, that she's profiting off her husband's Charlie's death, that she's faking it, that they're fake tears. Look at her evil eyes. How dare she wear leather pants? Yeah, that's evil, period. Suggesting that misidentifying members of our community, by the way, a member of my locals community was identified by Candace because he has a prosthetic arm and he got called the killer because they thought it was Inspector fucking Gadget killing Charlie Kirk. That's evil. Sicking an internet mob on people based on rumor and innuendo is evil. Nobody asking questions, not evil. But everything you said, Bobby, that's reasonable doubt. You say, I'm not convinced beyond a reasonable. That's fine. Everything you just described is so far beyond the pale of what satisfies probable cause. You made the best case for probable cause better than Rob. Yep. And so that's where we're at. I'm not convinced either. I'm convinced other people were involved. I'm convinced that maybe the reason why Patel didn't look into a foreign nexus at Joe Kent's request is because it might have revealed a domestic nexus, which would be something to cover up, actually. If Iran had a hand in killing Charlie Kirk, you wouldn't cover that up. Maybe Israel, but still.
Oh boy.
But don't you think that as you're stating it now is a lot different than you're portraying it online?
No. When anyone calls me a shill for Israel because I rightly point out that receipt never proved what they said it proved.
Okay, but
they're idiots, they're morons, they're liars, they're stupid, and I will call them that.
You often get very lost in the fringe element of somebody that throws some dumbass shit at you. I agree.
No. I've had people who have known me for years.
Okay, but
on that bandwagon.
But it sounds like you're not that certain that Tyler Robinson did it either.
Well, that he did it. If he did it, that he did it alone. I'm certain that he didn't, because when people are posting something big is going to happen a week before, celebrating it the day of. By the way,
Okay, then
when Candace,
mostly in agreement.
Well, I know.
But you guys are basically suggesting that like any person that would listen to the things that Candace says, of which it's TBD, a lot of this stuff, that this is like implicit in some type of bad thing.
Can I respond to that, Viva?
Yeah, go for it.
The reason why is that I think, as a former prosecutor and as a former cop, when a case like this happens, obviously the defense wants to put holes in the case. But I always think about it as Candace is like holding up one puzzle piece and saying, look how funny it is. The shape of it is wrong. This is wrong. But then when you put the whole puzzle together, as I think it's just your friend did, you have a lot of connecting dots. Why is it you have the fact you have to answer the question like, well, can you place him at the scene? DNA, camera, this, all that. But, so it's not just one thing that's bad. Well, his car is there. His DNA is there. His rifle is there. All this is there. So now you have a plausible thing that he was likely there, right? Even though you say, well, it's not HD 100%. Well, people have been convicted with a lot shittier cameras than what Kyler Robbins is convicted to. Let's just keep it real. So even with that, so what Candace, I think, has done is taking that one piece and saying this one piece proves the whole. But we all know that when you put a puzzle together, and even if you take out one piece, sometimes you can still see clearly what the puzzle is. And I think that's the true argument. The true argument is that you guys are saying the puzzle, there is no puzzle, it's still muddy. And I think the other side's saying, I think there's enough to show that this is not all nonsense. Would that be fair to say?
I have to go, and so can I just give a closing statement and go? I thank you all for your time, but I have another interview at 8:00. So I don't want to be
give a closing statement. We'll wind up, and I'll read the super chats afterwards.
Oh, okay. So I just want to say, Bobby, I'm happy that you're here. I think it was fun. I do think that for all I can say is for me and no one else that I saw, I don't have a problem in the world with you saying, I don't know, this confession sounds weird to me. I don't think that's a good argument necessarily, but that doesn't make you a bad person at all. Like, I have a problem with people like what Candace Owens are doing. And I voiced my opinions as to why I think you were sort of giving her too much leeway than you should when it came to this. I think that that's what Andrew Wilson was doing too. He is like me, like Viva, like Nate, probably. I didn't hear Nate's opinion on this, but it's like, we're waiting for the trial. We are not convinced beyond a reasonable doubt at this point. I think the evidence is overwhelming compared to most points, like which would normally be the grand jury phase here, that the public knows. We have way more evidence than almost any other capital murder trial at this point in the hearing as members of the public. And it's a very compelling story, but we need to wait for the trial to see. However, I want people like Candace, who have millions of followers, and Baron Coleman and Ian Carrickle, to answer for the outrageous claims they're making, attacking what would be, if they're wrong, an innocent grieving wife, a widow, and the friends of Charlie Kirk and his organization, and harming conservatives at this time where we're entering an election where Hassan Piker's out there going, go Candace, I think you're wrong, but thank you for dividing the right. And they're harming the online comment.
Even if I may,
Candace
even worse,
divided the right.
And thank you for diverting attention away from the focus on political violence. Thank you for changing the direction.
We had a chance to unify. We had a chance to unify of the violent culture of the left, and instead we're attacking each other. And it's also, as I said, going after potential innocent people. The thing to take away from this conversation, I'm undefeated in this. And one thing, I might not be the most handsome person in the world. I might have the most annoying voice in the world. But I have asked I'm hoarse in the throat. Please, someone provide me one piece of positive evidence that Candace Owens submitted to suggest that Tyler Robinson is overwhelmingly a patsy. No one can do it. This is day 4 of me asking. No one can provide. And everything that Bobby said here was like, well, I didn't really want to debate the debate, which is all reasonable, but he couldn't do it. She ran from every position that she's made. She ran from Israel. She ran from Freemasons doing. She ran from the French Foreign Legion. She ran from Erica Kirk. She made laughable statements like, when I said go to jail, I meant go to jail in Monopoly. When I said that Erica's complicit, I meant she's complicit in saying it's Tyler Robinson. It's a joke. It took $300,000 to get in a room for her to finally try to give some answers to these questions, and she ran. And no one, no matter how strong of a supporter they are of Candace Owens, has been able to provide one effing piece of evidence that she made for her affirmative case that was the topic, half of the topic, that Tyler Robinson is overwhelmingly a patsy. That's what's the takeaway.
The number one piece.
Have you watched her show? Have you watched all the episodes of her show?
That's not the debate.
No, but all the
wait.
episodes.
So you don't know what the
Debate.
evidence? So you don't know what evidence she's presented?
Have you watched all my
sorry.
shows? I debunked all of her claims.
I didn't know. I don't know who you are.
Well,
No, but
yeah.
Bobby, if
I'm
you're-
not
Yeah,
arguing
everybody-
about your positions.
if the
I'm just saying
response is-
you're like
if the
she's
response-
never produced the evidence. If you haven't watched it, then you
No,
don't
no,
know.
but
what
Debate
but-
speaks for itself. If I present evidence on my show and then someone says, I'd like to challenge that evidence, and I say, no, I won't leave someone challenge it, you don't then get to say, oh, she wins because she already answered everything on her show. That's a ludicrous position to have.
it's also you don't show up for a debate if that's going to be your answer.
Correct.
The bottom line.
You say I'm not debating.
Let me steel man it, Rob. The best piece of evidence that she produced, and I think she's the one who can take credit for it, even though it was leaked to her for the purposes of being leaked, were the text messages that show that Charlie was complaining about Jewish influence, donors, etc. That's the best thing that.
But that's
the best,
Viva.
and
If I
only.
can real quick,
pretty legit
can I
piece
do
of
this with you
evidence.
real quick? You're good faith, so I know you can do
Yeah.
it fast.
It doesn't
If-
prove that Tyler's a patsy.
I'll present two pieces of evidence really quick. If the rifle was the killing weapon and his DNA's on it, if that is true, hypothetically, is that strong evidence that Tyler Robinson did it?
It's a strong evidence that there's an indicator that he's connected to it.
Right. If his confession is real and he wasn't coerced and it's actually his, is that strong evidence that Tyler Robinson did it?
It's certainly sufficient for probable.
But it's strong. You would acknowledge that strong evidence. Now, if Israel's donors were really pissed and they were pulling money, is that strong evidence that Tyler Robinson's a patsy?
No, I've been saying from the beginning,
Exactly.
it's proof of intent, potential intent. It's not proof of any act.
That's right. All it is proof of. I'll concede that Israel and Iran and the trans community and the Democrats and the DEI community and about 50 other communities had incentive to want Charlie Kirk taken out.
And
Yep.
not just
But that doesn't prove anything, you know?
no, it doesn't. And
She
by the way,
didn't make any claims.
it's
Well, you don't have
possible-
to prove innocence either in America.
No, but that's why you go to trial for. But
Good
but,
point.
you,
Right.
but Bobby, you made the most compelling argument for probable cause that it's been met, and now they'll raise reasonable doubt if it's raisable.
Yeah, I think
Rob,
they
Rob,
met-
get out
I'm
of
going
here.
to go. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Have a
Take
good
care.
one.
Take care.
Take care,
Um,
everyone.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, someone got a thing in my throat. Did I bring that up? How did I bring that up? TPUSA is just a bunch of leeches leeching off the income Charlie built. I didn't mean to bring that up, but that's a pretty silly thing to. Okay, so they should just close their doors, go bankrupt. I mean, then Tyler Robinson or whoever did this really wins. They kill Charlie, kill the movement, kill the organization.
Yeah,
But-
to lay my cards on the table, I absolutely think Tyler Robinson did, and I think what they've presented in this preliminary hearing. But again, I'm using knowledge from when I was doing this, and I'm like, if they've showed me this, what else they have in the back that they're not showing me? So it does for me at this what I've seen. It would be hard. I would be almost shocked if they didn't convict him based on this, because there's just so much here. But I do understand why people, all these background stuff. But just as someone who's done this, who's put handcuffs on people, who's prosecuted people, I don't. It's as good as it gets. It's as good as the prosecution gets.
I could believe that it could be Lance Twiggs on the roof, because his testimony as to what they did that night and the next morning doesn't make sense to me. If somebody comes in and just admits that they kill somebody,
No trial is perfect. No
that's it,
trial
but-
is perfect, right?
And from what I understand, from the frustrations raised by some, the decision may have been made to limit the scope of the prosecution to one individual, to not complicate it and to not muddy the waters, and that might piss people off who think that there might have been a number of people that were involved, including the guy. Someone brought it up, actually, Bobby. Maybe you know more than me. The guy who was celebrating fight right after it happened. Candace allegedly identified him. People said he had ties to Antifa, and that's where that ended. Even with Candace's own investigation. Do you remember that guy? His name was David something Spurg.
I'm not sure.
It was the guy that was on cameras cheering afterwards, and he put out a video
Yeah.
on X saying that he was just doing it to try to encourage the crowd and whatever. Some people are saying that, he had Antifa connections, and if you want to look at where Candace is looking and is not looking, that could be just asking questions.
But like some of the things too, like even with the non-bullet thing, that more people weren't sure, that would take the corruption or the inside job on that would have to be so into, because you're talking about the medical examiner would kind of have to be on it, right, to say this. Then you're talking about his family, which it's possible because everybody's kind of lumped them together, but then also the EMTs who rushed to the scene, the people at this, like there's a lot of people who would have to be in on this, but
and to cover it up afterwards. And by the way,
to keep the
Earthworm who says, bro, did Viva just say it could be Lance on the roof? Yeah, I'm all right. If you don't understand the point, I mean, again, like this is the internet. People can pretend not to understand things when they want. If someone wanted to raise that argument, that you can entertain, it would admit that someone was on the roof, shot from the roof, and killed Charlie Kirk from the roof. And some people say Lance Twiggs and Tyler Robinson have similar physiques. But I'll tell you one thing. Lance Twiggs saying how he reacted when Robinson texted him and then came home that night and then the next morning. That, you know, if I'm saying suspicious behavior, like, oh, I never knew this was going to happen, and then he shows up and tells me he killed somebody, that's at the very least a separate crime of obstruction, or aiding and abetting.
But then do you also find it, because I know a lot of people bring up the point of Twiggs getting the use immunity for testifying at the probable cause hearing. So they're saying, hey, if you're just a witness and somebody who had nothing to do with this, why get use immunity? Regular witnesses don't get use immunity, right? Joe Blow walks down the street and sees a bank robbery. They're not giving him use immunity to say what he saw. So how do you feel about that? Because that's part of the thing, right? Why give him use immunity if you're so sure he didn't do anything? If you're so sure he's not.
Well, the use, but maybe they're sure he did do something, and they don't need his statements to be used as the predicating piece of evidence to go after him. The use immunity only means his statement can't be used against him. If they can prove it through other means, then they can still go after him. So maybe on the one hand, they just need it. They want to make sure they get Tyler Robinson, and this is the easiest way to do it. And if they have evidence that he committed a crime and they can prove it through other means, Discord messages, whatever, they still have that venue, and it's only limited to the statement.
Yeah, but see, like the way I'm thinking about it, because just from the conversation we just had, if his DNA is on a gun, Twiggs' DNA is on a gun, he kind of looks like the guy in similar height, right? So I'm thinking, and this is just me, if my DNA is on the scene, you come to me like, yo, we got this gun that was just to kill Charlie Kirk. Your DNA is on the scene. Do we want to talk to you? And I'm your attorney. Would you have your client have a conversation without use immunity?
No.
And of course not. Of course not.
And
so everything else you're talking about, you can't.
I would give the most self-serving statement imaginable. I had no idea what he was doing. We've never talked politics. We never talked about trans gay stuff, and I didn't know what he was engraving the bullets for. He just asked for the Dremel.
I think that's what Bobby's. I don't want to put words in Bobby's mouth, but you're saying stuff like that, right, Bobby? Because something like that.
Yeah, Bobby's reasonable. He's always been reasonable. He's just a Candace. He's in love with Candace for some reason.
I'm not in love with Candace, bro. It's like I honestly,
he's messing with you. He's just messing with you. Don't.
Let me just frame this for a second, because I haven't really been saying much.
Sorry, Bobby.
I think no, it's all good. It's not your fault. It's all good. But like, I think that you brought me on here to basically make me the punching bag of criticisms of Candace. And this dude prepared literally clips and images and videos ahead of time, knowing that he was going to do that, and then yelled his position down my throat, and then basically said that all the state's evidence is legit, and every other piece of evidence that an individual citizen that's not a police officer could produce, that is not evidence. And why don't you produce one piece of evidence? It sounded like he was getting a little bit of a little pent-up rage that he had at Candace and yelling it directly at me, when that is not my position. It's never anything that I've ever said or suggested at all. And I'm here having to defend things that Candace said from some obscure clip that was taken from months ago, and I'm getting grilled like I need to answer for her. Nobody's ever
the whole point.
No, but it's like, no, like my opinion and my position in this live stream has been non-existent.
Well, but
like,
Bobby,
I've talked for 2.5 minutes uninterrupted. It's like you guys are like, you haven't asked what my position is. What's Candace done? What has Candace produced? Candace has no sources. So it's like, why am I even here?
Well, you said I'll come when I said that none of the following people have ever accepted, because they won't. You do, because you have a reasonable, mildly middle ground of a position. And just so you know,
Rob, me questions about my position, which is not happening.
The whole context of this was post-debate, and why none of the people making the wild accusations will come out for an adversarial discussion to defend them. But by the way, Rob also yelled at me like that during our Team MAGA versus Team America First debate. I don't think he's going to come out looking like he won that one, because he was on the wrong side. His tactic is what it is, but I think he had the better of the he had definitely the losing of the position there. But no,
No,
I mean, that's all the point. What I wanted to talk about is why Candace and Coleman and Ian and O'Neill, they don't come out to defend their positions. They go on friendly media, and you say, "Well, I'll come." It's like,
Well,
okay, you come, but I don't want to talk to you because I know what you think, and you don't say what they say.
To be, if I was doing that to you, I totally apologize. I
No,
actually,
you're not. It has nothing
you
to
know,
do-
I totally, I did, because when I saw what was going on, I was trying to get. That's why I said lay out your position. I was trying to get everybody to understand that this is what your position was. And the reason why I just asked the question I asked previously is because you made mention of Tyler Robinson. You know, it could be Lance Twigg, and that's why I threw the reasons why I thought Lance Twigg took the deal, because it could be Lance Twigg if his DNA is at the gun and at the scene. So but I didn't mean to say to try to say your own position. That's why I asked you, is that your position or what you believe? So I'm sorry if
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm specifically
Oh.
talking about Rob, and I'm talking about the premise of this discussion.
Well,
to begin with.
the premise was Rob was the fact checker for the debate. I mean, that was the
right.
predicate to this.
Yeah, and his facts are, I'm going to read off the state's evidence, and it's
No,
good.
no, his
and it's good because the state presented it.
But Bobby, I'm not going to let you. You spend a great. I'm not blaming the amount of time you do it. You are one of Candace's biggest defenders on social media.
I don't.
And you
think
go to
that's
you go
true,
to the pure. Well, you go to the purity of her intentions. How this is spiritual for that, and I rib you
I
on
believe
X.
that's true.
Well, and to the extent that you're defending her on social media, when I ask her to come on, you say, "How about me?" Don't blame people for thinking you were coming here to defend Candace.
You showed the tweet that you made, and that's not what it said.
Oh, my said was Ian doesn't come on. I've invited him. Coleman doesn't.
It said
come on,
the
I've
people
invited him.
asking questions don't want to answer questions. And I said, I did.
Well, no, you said, how about me? And the suggestion was that
I did.
The suggestion was that, I mean, I guess you're saying, how about me? Okay, well, if you don't espouse and promote what they say, fine. You sure as hell defend Candace daily on X.
Yes, I do.
And all right. Well,
I think that they've presented a lot of information that blows holes and calls into question and suggests a lot more things should be investigated.
Yeah, well,
for example, the shattered road mic glass, for example, on the floor in the SUV. It's like, what is that? Why is there shattered glass of a Rode microphone on the floor in the SUV?
You just said what the shattered glass was. No one on earth. First of all, that
right, we don't know
yet.
Glass,
even if it looks like glass, it looks like more glass than's on a tiny road thing. The idea being that they're covering up an exploding mic, and as though after an exploding mic, shape charge goes off and kills Charlie, the glass is still there, despite the fact that we saw no explosion. The fact that Candace has said he was shot from the front, the back, the ground, that he wasn't shot. I mean, these are things she hasn't done anything meaningful other than created 11 months of drama.
The shirt moving before the bullet hole is seen, the shirt moving and popping up in that direction.
That's so let Rob O'Neill come and explain that that's not what happens when someone gets shot in the neck.
Well, that's what he said, but I'm just saying, like,
that's what he said in a 30-second clip where it doesn't get any pushback. Do tell me how shirts behave.
Were there any burn marks like on his chest or anything like that?
There were no burn marks on his chest. They have some still shot from the car that they say, look at this, it looks like burns. It actually just looks like dried blood is what it looks like. The glass looks like it could be sunglasses, it could be broken window. I mean, it looked like more glass than you'd ever find on a road mic. The idea there is they're saying the mic blew up and the glass was stuck under his shirt because it was a road mic that was under his shirt. And that's espousing the exploding mic when Candace says he was shot from the front, the back, the neck, he wasn't shot. So the bottom line is, you raise, I say, not legitimate questions. You question a narrative. They'll have a trial for that. But what you've described satisfies probable cause. And what they've done is made an entire economy based on peddling rumors, lies, innuendo, accusations, and they move from one to the other day in and day out.
Talking about.
Well, no, but that's all that I wanted to talk about with them.
Okay,
like the receipts.
But that's the thing is, like, I think a lot of your and I's conversation, it's like a word. It's like mixing up words and meddling all of the things into one thing and not staying specific on an individual thing, where it's just like the road mic glass on the floor, for example, or if there's road mic glass on the floor, and the idea, like, for example, it's like, well, where's the audio from that road mic? Like, that would pretty much prove that it wasn't the road mic. So you're going into not just the evidence. You're saying, well, they created this cottage industry and they're making money off it. That's not really what we're talking about.
I didn't say the money. I said they created an economy of
economy
lies. You
don't know their lies.
Innuendo.
Well, they might be innuendo, but what if she's right?
What if? Look,
well, I'm just saying, if
we'll
she was right, what else would she do? If she was right, what else would she do?
If she was right about what? Because she's made every claim under the sun.
If she was right that it wasn't Tyler Robinson, how else would she go about finding that out for certain, other than to put it on the thing that she does every day? Like, how else would she do that? Like, what should she do? March down the street?
How else would she do it?
If your friend got assassinated and you're a podcaster, a prominent podcaster that has millions of listeners, which is like a lot of other people have been exonerated of crimes due to podcasts. If there's no other way that you can do anything to collect information about the case as a normal citizen, what else could you do? Your friend gets assassinated.
What else could you do other than put out a 12-part miniseries demonizing the wife? Say that the organization was behind it. Make claims about French legions and Mormon bees and trapdoor. What else could you? How about pursue it in a way that is not malicious, not potentially defamatory, and not leading people into factually incorrect understandings of the legal process, the evidence, what they could and could not do? How about doing it responsibly?
Okay, fine. You could say that she has done it irresponsibly. Fine, that's fine.
Well,
but in the event that she was right
about what she said
anything. Okay, so let's say that let's say for the sake of the discussion that Erica Kirk was complicit in it.
Okay.
And she's making these videos basically explaining.
But just to say, she said in the debate, she never said that.
She said that she
in the
walked
murder.
it back. She walked that back.
Yeah, she did walk it back. She said
specifically
she was not complicit in the murder. She said that directly.
By the way, I didn't watch the last show.
I just didn't want to misrepresent her.
What did she say she was going to do with the $300,000, Bobby? Do you know? Not asking you to answer.
She said she was gonna take care of her family. She said she was gonna take care of her sister. She said she was gonna donate some of it to the church, and she was gonna use it to take care of the people around her.
Oh, that's nice.
That's nice.
But I would.
Bobby, first of all, I don't want to say you look like you're angry. I thought
it's not about being angry. It's just that clarity of my position, because again, like, I'm not Candace Owens, so clarity of my position and discussing my own position and the case itself is different than defending anything and everything and the intent of Candace Owens in every episode that she's ever done.
You do that anyhow, and it was in that context where I said none of them come on, and you say I'll come on, and I wasn't asking you to come on to defend your positions, otherwise I'd have
Okay, I guess I didn't understand. I guess I didn't know that. I don't know. I don't know that if you said somebody needs to come on and defend anything Candace Owens has ever said, I wouldn't have said I could do that. That's not what it said.
But you know what, the position that you laid out, are you willing to present? Like, you laid out a position, and I'm asking you from that what you laid out.
Yeah,
Candace, from my understanding, hasn't been called by the defense side or anything to testify or with any of this evidence or anything like that. So my question, and obviously this is something that is just a hypothetical, but why would you think the defense attorneys, if she did have evidence showing that these things were so bad, why wouldn't you think they've reached out and said? Because if I had a client, like I had a client,
I don't know that they haven't. We don't know that they haven't.
Well, hasn't she said? Because I've seen because people, what's his name, has all those clips of her saying they should reach out. They've never reached out. They never reached out. They never reached out. Maybe they've reached out. Maybe yesterday or something, but from when she said last, they've not reached out to her. So yeah, I would just be wondering why, if someone had overwhelming evidence that my client was innocent, that would be the first person I would call, right? That would make sense. So I just would, like, a lot of the evidence that you've put forward was, hey, why didn't they do that, right? Why didn't do this? Why is this? Why is this? So now I'm asking you, why wouldn't a defense attorney contact someone who has overwhelming evidence that their client may be innocent?
We don't know that they haven't.
I'm pretty sure they haven't.
You're pretty sure they haven't. How do you know? What's your positive evidence that they haven't?
They haven't.
All right, sure. No. I can play the clips of her saying that they haven't reached out.
Okay, and if she said,
I don't want to play them, but I'm saying.
But I'm just saying, if she said that, if she did reach out, if they did reach out, what would be the benefit of her saying that they did? Who would that help?
She would say, "Hey, they reached out and let me know." Blah blah blah. So I don't. But
wouldn't that call them into question? Wouldn't that make their job a little bit harder?
It would make me think that she had something.
All right,
no. I'm gonna answer.
I can't. No, but I can't even verify because I've ran out of my grok answers. Like, I can't see if
no. I would actually. What I would actually say to that is, if the reason why she has already told people. It's not like she was telling people nothing. She was telling people they've not reached out to her. She kept saying they have not reached out. They have not. I wonder why they should talk to me. I have all the evidence. She said that. I've watched her say that.
Yep.
We've all watched her say that.
Right.
So I believe her when she says that.
But
now, if you're telling me that could possibly, it's like now the goalpost is kind of crazy because now it's like, well, she could be lying now.
They're lying now to consider the
I'm
fact
trying
that
to say,
and by the way, Bobby,
I'm just asking
talked
for
to people.
Reasonable inference from that. If she has evidence that, if she said they haven't contacted her.
I'm just saying the reasonable inference is to whom would it benefit if Candace announced publicly that Tyler's defense reached out to her? Who would benefit from that?
No, but she.
Right, so why has she
lying on purpose?
Maybe.
Okay.
I'm just saying. That's
is that reasonable though? I'm talking about.
Yes, it is reasonable.
She's just lying and say. So why say anything?
Bobby, my father.
I don't know. I'm not Candace Owens. That's what I'm trying to say.
You don't have to tell the truth, but you can't lie.
No, I'm not
you don't believe Candace here, but you believe her here.
No, I'm not asking you.
I know for a fact that people have been reaching out to the defense, and the defense wants nothing to do with them.
Okay.
No, but I'm not.
And what if the defense is not good? What if the defense is?
Well, by the way, we're at that stage of the defense is in on it. We've seen people floating.
Well, would they because again, if everything we're talking about is true, it would be the defense that have to be on it. Everybody who's dealt from even a judge would probably have to be on it.
Hold on,
everybody would have to be on it to push it forward.
I'm gonna go raid Tim Cascos. We're gonna end in a few minutes. Opt out if you want to stick around for the closing parts here, but I'm gonna just give everyone the heads up. So raiding Tim Pool and let him know that I'm not responsible for what Barnes says, and I have to tweet. There's drama between Tim Pool, Alex Jones,
Barnes,
the quartering, Barnes, everybody.
I've seen it.
Yeah, I want to have nothing to do with it, but okay. So no, Bobby, yeah, it's I still like you, and I know that you're reasonable, which is why you accept public discussion.
Thank
and
you.
Those who've been peddling the nonsense don't, and they'll make all sorts of excuses as to why they won't do. Oh, they're not of good faith. If I will engage with someone who I know is not of good faith, because if I have a good argument, I'll be able to rebut it. I went on with I had Pisco Liddy on, who I think is a decent guy, who I knew it was nothing but an attempt to get me in a gotcha. I went on with Hotep Jesus, who I realized afterwards it was nothing but an attempt to get me to say something racist in the wake of Carmelo Anthony's conviction. And I knew it. I learned it within 5 minutes. Not engaging with those who are of bad faith is the coward's way out. And thus far, Ian Carroll, I was good enough for him to come on back in the day, no more, because he doesn't want to be able to, he doesn't want to have to defend the things that he said. You have not made the outlandish statements that Candace, Ian, I think to a lesser degree, Barron has made. And that's why you don't mind coming on to discuss the hypotheticals and explore it reasonably.
Yes,
but
and I just don't think that there's really not a lot of the things that I've been kind of prompted to answer and substantiate are not things that I would have ever suggested I could substantiate or prove definitively on its own. Because it's like, if it's like, what is your position? That's one thing. If it's, why did Candace do this? How do we know that Candace did that? These are like impossible things for me to prove, for me to validate.
Well, but hold on. I think that's unfair because what we've been doing is saying, well, here's the evidence. Let's make it, what would be the reasonable inference based on this evidence? You talked about the gun, the way you're looking, right? We've been doing that based on the evidence. And then when I just took the inference and said, well, if that's true, the inference would be the attorneys, if all this stuff is solid, would contact her. And you were the one rebutted that. You rebutted that with, how do we know they contacted her? And then my answer to that was, well, hey, she's on video saying she never gonna, and then your rebuttal to me was, she's lying. And then it became about that. But the original question was asking about the inference. If she had knocked down innocence evidence, why wouldn't a reasonable defense attorney go and get that evidence?
But not just
that was the question.
And it resulted in the unfalsifiable conspiracy that she may have lied. So if she said that she didn't, she might be lying to protect. I mean,
and if that's even true, then I can't believe anything else she says because she's lying about something so silly like this. Then it makes me think she could be lying about everything else.
That's fine, and that's a reasonable position for you guys to take. And like my position is not to say that everything that she says is true or that I know every reason or every method to her madness. Like I that's not my position to defend why. Like I don't know. All I'm thinking on the fly here. It's like why would she say that the defense hasn't contacted her? I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. Maybe she would say it to protect them, to make it not seem like there could be any multitude of reasons why that is. I don't know. I don't know why she would say that.
It's
I don't
most
know
like-
what they
it's
did
most
or
likely-
if they didn't.
It's most likely because the defense didn't, because they have not provided anything of
Fine.
any use, and because the defense knows what they can and cannot ethically, reasonably raise by way of arguments and denial of evidence. Probably. We have to just go with Occam's razor.
I'm just saying that a lot of these things have been like, it's like we're talking about things that none of us know.
Well,
It's
we
like,
know.
how do
we know- By the way, just Herbalist 420, that's marijuana, this is awesome. Bobby is exactly what we need to get to the root. A devil's advocate, regardless of what's morally right or wrong. It furthers investigations. This is awesome. Bobby is great. I think everyone watching knows that, but the whole point of this is the people who will not sit down for this type of discussion will not, because they know they cannot withstand the scrutiny. And that is exactly why Candace lost that debate, notwithstanding that Andrew couldn't name the charges. I'm going to read the chats. I don't want to keep you guys here for that. Nate, tell everybody where they can find you. Bobby, tell everybody where they can find you.
Go ahead, Nate.
I'm Nate the Lawyer. Just Google Nate the Lawyer and you'll see my channel.
He has exploded.
Crazy stories.
He's amazing. He does amazing stuff, and he avoids the politics, which I think is probably the healthy thing.
I'm trying to avoid the politics, but this Candace Owens story is fascinating. Not to go back into all that, but I think it's a fascinating story because I do think I can see where all of this maps out, because I'm sympathetic to Bobby, because I get what he's saying. He's like, hey, I'm just not there yet, which is a reasonable position. And I think it's interesting because at the beginning of this debate, you guys are all down each other's throat, but right at the middle, you guys are all in agreement that there is probable cause here, but there's not enough to maybe beyond a reasonable doubt. So I think that's an interesting position. Yeah, and I think it's interesting that agreement that we all have seems to have gotten even muddied at the end, but we all actually agree.
Yeah, that's why at the very beginning, like the guy's like, you're a comedian, but I'm gonna make you look funny right now, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I don't even know who this dude even is.
Well,
in fair, that might be
Rob's.
Like, all right,
that's Rob's demeanor.
Here's a clip that I clipped out in advance for this debate. It's like, first of all, I didn't even know this was even a debate, and now defend some obscure clip from Candace from 4 months ago. I'm not Candace. Oh, you believe everything Candace? It's like, Jesus Christ. It's like, okay, I guess it's not about my position. It's about her position and how it relates to it. It's like she is one of a multitude of people that are investigating a case that has a lot of mysterious and a lot of suspicious elements to it. And it is uncertain to me that I don't believe that he is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't believe that there's overwhelming evidence to prove his guilt.
Yeah, well,
and I think that's her position as well.
Well, those are premature arguments. And
just to correct, I think her evidence is that there's zero. She doesn't believe it. She's used the number.
She
zero.
doesn't. No,
I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about you.
Yes.
I'm talking about her. That's what I said. Her position is that there's zero evidence. But I think the problem, and this may just be a debate tactic. That's why I kept asking for the positive claim. A positive claim is that I claim this and have to defend it. You claim, and she is claiming that all the evidence there's 0% chance, and I think that's what he keeps saying. Well, where's the evidence for that claim? And I think you're not claiming anything. You're saying I haven't seen enough. And I think that's the difference between your claims and Candace's claims. Candace has to provide evidence to prove that her claim is true. You're saying I'm not convinced either one side is right.
Well,
right. Yes. Yet I'm being quizzed to defend her position that isn't my position.
Correct.
The whole point of this even was to debate who won the debate with Candace and Wilson, and this would have always been it would have just been me, with a different demeanor than Rob. I would have been pulling up the clips because those were the clips that they pulled up during the debate.
All right, Viva. Let me get
out of here,
here.
Nate. Everyone knows how to find you. Bobby, where can people find you?
Followbobby.com. You can find all my links there. Followbobby.com.
Followbobby.com. And okay, I'll call you after this. We'll make amends after the show's over.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for coming on.
No problem.
Let me do this. You know what? I'm going to bring up some of the. I'm going to bring up all the tipped questions that I missed. The super chats, Rumble rants. We got over on Rumble. I'm getting to locals afterwards. Only real question to ask her is, has she given all her info to Tyler's defense? 247 buzzkill. We got that one. Dan Vicious says, that's just Robbie's voice, to be fair. He was like that with us during the debate. I was like, oh, let me just stand up and stretch my legs out. He was like that during the Team MAGA debate. It's a tactic. I say I like his voice. It's a radio voice. And it's a good voice. He speaks, I like it. It's raspy. It's powerful. But I don't think it worked during the Team MAGA debate. You guys will decide when that gets published. Back up here, we got The Remanded. Says, great show today. Thanks, Bobby, for keeping it cool. To Rob and to the Quartering for coming on. No, that was Rob. Okay. And conversation's been good from an audience perspective. What's the panel doing for the trial? The Remanded has a great channel. You got to check out The Remanded on X. VPMW Davis says the only person Candace hasn't accused are space aliens from Uranus. Well, yet I say Jewish space lasers also. MTG never used the term Jewish space lasers. Biltong says, craving a snack that's bold, authentic, and packed with protein. Biltong boasts over 50% protein, packed with B vitamins, creatine, iron, zinc, and more. BiltongUSA.com. Use code VIVA for 10% off. Thank you, Hunley, for the raid. Thank you, Nick DePaulo Show, for the raid. Thank you, Lone Wolf Fan Club, for the raid. Oh, Lone Wolf Fan Cub. Not bad. I get this pun there. And now let's get to vivabarneslaw.locals.com while I continue to stretch my hamstrings. I looked it up. It seems that it's you can actually shorten the leg muscles if for extended periods of sitting. And I'm fairly certain I did that when I drove to Canada and back. And throughout Canada, Mandalici says, y'all talking over each other wasn't productive. Let everyone speak. Yeah, but it ends up, it invariably happens. Dapper Dave says, the point I made over and over again to Viva, Candace is not law enforcement and does not have the law enforcement investigative powers to do a clean investigation on her assertions. Then don't make the assertions that you can't substantiate, because the excuse, well, I made the assertion, but I can't prove it because I'm not law enforcement. You're making an assertion without the ability to substantiate it. That's also called lying. I don't have the evidence to substantiate the assertion because I can't get it, but I made it nonetheless. Even if a few of her assertions are correct, that's huge. No, it's not. When you say 5 things, all of which are mutual, he was shot from the front, he was shot from the back, he was shot from the ground, he wasn't shot. Well, one of those 4 is going to be true. Oh, but I got one of the 4 right. The private citizen investigations can only be successful if and only if law enforcement cooperates, or they can be successful by not propagating disinformation. When the owner of the Cowboy Steakhouse comes out and says, we have no evidence to show that Tyler Robinson ate there, and you have people online because they watch Candace saying the owner confirmed that he ate there, you're not helping an investigation. You're actually just helping confuse it so that justice can actually never be properly meted out. Dapper Dave, the exact point I made, law enforcement job to subpoena the debit card records. Conveniently gloss over that point? No. To make it sound that Candace can obtain that information by herself? No. That she doesn't say that she can. Then she says, we've never verified this to Tyler, but I'm told it's his receipt. Dude, redact the receipt as though you're redacting the information proving the thing that you're saying, and then say, stay tuned for the unredacted receipt. I've seen it. Dapper, I mean, you've been here for a long time. I know that you're quite reasonable. You have a massive blind spot, and that's not confession through projection. She positively asserted the receipt proved it was Tyler, and then in the debate admitted it's never been tied to Tyler. That's a lie. It's a lie. It's misleading, and it's leading people astray. That's a huge difference between saying Tyler Robinson is a patsy and that Tyler Robinson wasn't involved at all. Okay, good. Dapper Dave, it's hilarious how you act like Candace. Okay, I got all this. Now I think we got to the top here. Did we get to the top? Load more messages. Straits of Hormuz. Did I show this the whole time? I did. Okay. Roosting, if you don't appreciate my psychobabble, I think I avoided psychobabble here. It's okay. Then we got all of this. Now let me refresh here and get the regular chat. Everyone should subscribe to vivabarneslaw.locals.com, where we fact check. We make sure to have receipts if we make positive affirmations. A non-LEO can talk to those who have access to the charge records and records C2 and hope they actually go and look. They typically will not identify who, but could easily say they don't see Tyler name in the charge runs. Oh, by the way, they say like, oh, that's the receipt. They printed that receipt back up afterwards. Like, this is the receipt that was given to Tyler. No, it wasn't. The one they gave to Tyler, if it was him at the restaurant, they gave to Tyler. They printed that one back up based on what they think they identified as the person who they thought was Tyler Robinson. No, they don't trust Lance Twiggs identifying Tyler. But then they trust a waiter who says, yeah, it had to have been him. And as if it hadn't been. So now it was his receipt. The FBI had it, looked into it. It was confirmed, but they didn't follow up on it. So now you got the FBI on that. Not just the FBI being unreliable, the FBI being in on the cover-up. You got the owner who's got to be on the cover-up right now. Everybody else who's maintaining this, and they don't raise this fabrication of evidence at the probable cause because they're saving it for trial. You don't get a revenue if you don't drop the probable heavy. You don't get revenue if you don't drop the probably very controversial assertions. C2, and I think that's about someone else. Okay, we got, you should let Bobby speak. Well, the other thing, Bobby was on a while back. Viva, would you leap on the chance for a $300 debate appearance? No. Rue saying, you know why? There's no free lunch and there's no gifts. There's only investments. Someone offering $300,000? It's like if someone offered me $300,000 for one of my pieces of art. Here, someone offered me $300,000 for this crappy, who is this guy? Jeff Samardzа. Someone offers me $300,000 for this. They're not buying something, they're buying someone. And she's gonna use that money for her family. Oh, that's called keeping it. Oy. The governor just showed up at my restaurant. Wow, big wow. Mandalici, which state are you in? Yeah, no, by the way, Rustang, I wouldn't accept $300,000. I would do it for free. Or I would donate the money to a charity afterwards. It's different than a speaking fee. You want to go to do a gig. You want to defend truth and righteousness? And you say, I've got the greatest ideas ever, but I'll only defend them and my wild assertions if you pay me $300,000. But at least she's using it for a good cause, right? Her family. AKA pocketing it. Oh, she'll give some to a charity. When do these guys start the streams? Candace has new footage, allegedly. Tony DeMarco. $300,000 money in the pocket. Well, at least you understand the racket. It's a good racket. Very profitable. I understand the owner looked into it and found there was no indication Tyler had been there. Perhaps the wait staffer thought they saw someone who looked like this person. How would they have thought that also, by the way? They didn't send out the pictures until the next day. So they say, oh, here's the picture I saw the next day. I saw him here last night. I don't think I'm wrong on that timeline. Your baseball card investments are bust? Hold on. Oh, really? Rustang, look what I got today in the mail. It is a, how do I get it in focus? Oh, come on, get in focus. Focus. Where's the camera? Well, it's not focusing. Who is this guy? Jamie Arnold, auto to 150. Guaranteed it's going to be worth nothing one day. I think at best now it's like worth $80. Viva, are you going to bring back Embolden Rage or Golden Gaze Thursday? Slim Shaken, I don't know what it is. Oh, hold on. Let me show everybody. Let me show everybody what that is. There's nothing wrong with that. We got to get Kyle back on. He texted me when we were live, so I'll see what's going on. There we go. Oh, sorry, I'm not showing it. Golden Gaze. This is me and Kyle. We're going to hang out one day, Kyle and me. Gay for what? All right. I think I might have missed some over on CommiTube. And then I'm going to end this because my ass is exquisitely sore. I should say my leg muscles. That could be taken out of context. Okay, here we're going over to this. All the way to the bottom. My fat fingers can't get this. Okay, here we go. It was Trey Parker and Matt Stone and South Park guys that put the hit on Charlie Kirk. Kenny was the shooter in the cap. And that is Nathan Danner 4030. He doesn't know he's just asking questions, guys, says Lord of the Nerds. Oh my effing G, this idiot. Oh my gosh, this idiot. If the defense talked to Candace, that would validate her claim. So clearly it would benefit her to say they talked to her. He sounds like a Candace. No wonder why he follows her. I don't agree with the evidence, but I'm not going to show evidence either. Donald Lee Thomas, then why the hell did you ask to talk to Viva then? If you don't understand what the discussion was going to be about, this just makes you look stupid. It was quite clear that it was to discuss the debate, and specifically in the context of the people making the assertions who refused to come on adversarial or even confrontational podcasts to have their questions challenged. If her evidence is in the show us. And Nate, the lawyer, it was in the charge. Okay, we got the rest. Everybody, we're going to call it quits today. Thank you all for being here. This was awesome. Do we go raid somebody else? I think we have time to raid somebody else because we got 2 raids. Let me see who is up on Rumble, and we'll raid. Well, we raided Timcast already. We get to raid a second place. Let's see here. Who's live? Is Owen Schroyer live? Ooh, Timcast. Streaming to help my cat get a camper van. That's something else that's... Dude, who is anybody? Who else is live? Okay, we'll go raid Tim one more time because they're talking politics. Royer, is he live? He's not live. All right, so we're gonna go raid Tim one more time, and then I'm gonna go eat dinner and have a nice dry martini. Raid, booyah, go. Last one. Peace out, people. Thank you for being here. Godspeed. God bless, and I will see you all tomorrow. Booyah.